Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, hey, way too fast. Way too fast. I gotta go. I'm in the zone. Foot on the gas. Foot on the gas. Yeah, yeah, yeah. GPS. I got goals. I know where to go, so I never crash. Yeah. Hey, hey, way too fast. Way too fast. I gotta go. I'm in the zone. Foot on the gas. Foot on the gas. Yeah. Hey, GPS. I got goals. I know where to go, so I never crash. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in the end zone. Where did he go? You way too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the wings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all around the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah, yeah, yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah, yeah, yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Foot on the gas, yeah. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash.
It is another beautiful night for sim racing and another edition of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. We're in the home of NASCAR this time around, the birthplace, Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina. And tonight we welcome you to coverage of the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show in anticipation of race number 9 in this 2024-25 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series season. And with that, we are so happy to bring you alongside for us in the broadcast booth alongside Francisco Bacallao and Keelan Belsha. I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll be tossing over to race time in just several minutes. But Francisco, we're back at a mile-and-a-half track. It's been quite a while. We've taken a pretty decent tour around some other different types of venues, but Charlotte is the typical cookie-cutter mile-and-a-half track with 3 races to go, including this one until the end of 2024. These next 3 are going to be really important.
Yeah, happy to be here in the birthplace of NASCAR and the home of NASCAR, really, in the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Charlotte, North Carolina area. Such a great venue, such a great racetrack, fantastic racing here, and it's going to be brought to us in 4-wide action. So I'm excited to see what these drivers have in store. We have a lot of stories to talk about, a lot of headlines to discuss, and I can't wait to kick things off.
And Keelan Belsha, in this series, as it's known, many different winners have taken the top of the step of the podium, but a lot of it has been Brandon Hawken as of late. He's been so dominant, and a lot of it has come down to the type of racing we've seen, whether it is a long green flag run to give us the end at Chicagoland, or whether it was a caution-filled race that took us to overtime at New Hampshire Motor Speedway last week. There seems to be a divvy up on what kind of race we're expecting to see tonight. What do you expect as we take on another mile-and-a-half tonight?
Well, Kenneth, it's great to be here this evening. It is a great evening for racing. And what to expect tonight? Well, the last 3 of the last 4 have gone Brandon Hawken's way. It's going to be hard to bet against him this evening. But that one race he did lose was on a mile-and-a-half track like this at Chicagoland. Today we're in Charlotte. Similar racetrack, but not really. There's not as much room to dice around over here. The tri-oval, quad-oval area is different, so it's a bit of a different racetrack, but same dimensions for the most part. And in these next gens, it's pretty similar racing that we're going to get this evening. So we had a banger at Chicagoland. I think we're going to have another one tonight.
And while Brandon Hawken was not successful the last time we were at an intermediate speedway like a Chicagoland Speedway, last week was very different. We were at the Magic Mile New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and Brandon Hawken was able to succeed once again. This was the opening jump, Hawken and Peel on the front row, and we were awaiting a really long one from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Lots of restarts, but Francisco, lots of chaos while Hawken was pacing the field. This was the first bout of pit stops under yellow, where the entire field would come in. Strategy didn't really matter all that much, but when it did kick in, we found a lot of crazy things like Steven Maggio going hard into the wall here.
Yeah, just some contact there from cars on the inside and behind, getting loose on those cold tires. Lawson Peel missing a shift here, resulting in a big pile up on the front straightaway. Plenty of chaos happened behind Brandon Hawken, the only driver to finish the race with a 0X. Everybody else involved in some kind of incident. It resulted in an overtime restart, and it was Brandon Hawken pulling away from the field to capture his 3rd win of the season, and Season 3 champ Scott Healy was able to finish in the 2nd place position. So it was a good showing from him, and Brandon Hawken already with 3 wins in our short season to this point. Kenneth, all he has to do is make the amount of starts necessary to be qualified for the playoffs, because otherwise he's about got every other category.
He's basically right there when it comes to qualifying for the playoffs this season, and like Keelan said, he's won 3 of the last 4, so there's no stopping the Canadian right now. And Brandon Hawken, he's been one of the most dominant drivers, and with that recent win, with the 3 he's picked up so far this season, he already puts himself in 3rd, tied with Eric Schaefer on the all-time wins list in 4-wide history. So if there's anyone that's making a mark very quickly, it's Brandon Hawken in the number 98 Chevrolet, someone that we always watch for every single week. And it's been a very short tenure in this series, but Hawken has showed us already that he's one of the series' all-time best.
One last time, let you back into my head.
There is something to behold about what Brandon Hawken could bring to the table. We always asked whether he would be a part of the playoffs given the amount of attendance. It wasn't the case.
It's enough to make me feel supernatural.
Turn 7 finalized. Hawken, the winner from Watkins Glen.
With the focus on Brandon Hawken, who dominates tonight and is going to capture his 2nd win of the season here at Richmond.
will be a 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series winner, and this time it's from New Hampshire.
I'm hoping to climb that leaderboard a little bit further.
Supernatural.
Well, Keelan, Brandon has been certainly impressive. We talk about 3 of the last 4. Here are the last 4 races that he's run and how we've gone this season. Watkins Glen was the first strike. Richmond was the second. Chicagoland is that second place finish that he fell just short of the race win to Stephen Maggio. And then New Hampshire, that most recent win that came 7 nights ago. That is an average finish of 1.25, Keelan. That is awfully impressive, and he's got a chance to get number 4 this evening.
Yeah, and I think what makes it even more impressive, Kenneth, is all the different disciplines that are in those racetracks that he's encountered in the last 4 weeks. The road course at Watkins Glen dominated, and his 2 other wins came at a short track at Richmond and a somewhat short track at New Hampshire. So he has really seemed to figure it out. But we come to the discipline tonight that he couldn't get it done at Chicagoland when he lost that great duel to Stephen Maggio, so he'll be looking for a little bit more fortune on those intermediates this evening, but he does have a lot of momentum behind him.
Well, we've seen Brandon have a lot of success, Francisco, but if last week showed us anything in New Hampshire, it was that it did not discriminate in terms of giving drivers plenty of troubles. We talked about in the highlight reel, Stephen Maggio going sideways. He had the race lead off of a strategy call. He went straight into the wall. Not the first time we would see it happen, but plenty of the top drivers in the series, Francisco, found very deep trouble, including Lawson Peel and Jaden Porter in that race.
Yeah, two of your big contenders in the overall season standings got in trouble here. Yeah, Lawson Peel having those shifting issues on the restart. Jaden Porter running in the top 5, gets clipped there by Alistair, gets sent straight head on into the wall, ending his competitive evening and ended up costing him the points lead. He's had the points lead since the second race of the season and has had a comfortable margin just about over everybody. But with Kyle Benson, even though despite getting into his fair share of issues, recovered for a solid enough finish while Porter couldn't, and that was enough to hand Kyle Benson a 4-point lead in the point standings right now. And both of those drivers really, Kenneth, are well clear of the rest of the pack. You look at, if you were to actually take a look at the points, you have Benson, Porter clear by about 14 over Curtis Kelly, who's in his defense has had a really consistent season. We got to go all the way 50 plus points back to Eric Schaefer. So right now, points wise, it's been dominant by Benson, Porter, and Kelly, who all have 6 top 10s to lead the series.
Yeah, these drivers are very good this season, but I mean, if there's any way that you can sort of cut it, it's that New Hampshire really did send a lot of drivers for a ride, and that did kill a top 10 streak that Jaden Porter had that had him in the points lead, and that 3rd place finish by Kyle Benson, very pivotal in that battle for the points. We're also getting word from Tyler Murray, the league owner, that for Brandon Hawken, 14 starts is the magic number for him if he wants to be completed and eligible for the 4-wide playoffs this season. However, if he does point his way in, then the starts don't necessarily count in that sense. However, he already has 3 wins, looking for number 4, so there is the possibility that he just makes the starts threshold anyway, and he wins enough races to lock him in fully. But we'll keep an eye on all of those drivers who have found some of the struggles over the course of the season. One driver that's found back and forth over the course of the campaign is Mikey Neal in his sophomore season of 4-wide action. We join him now. He's our pre-race interview driver for the night. Mikey, you got a copy with us?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
All right, Mikey. Well, we've seen a lot of great from you over the course of the campaign. Some bad races, some good ones. What would be the best way you would describe your season until now?
Yeah, it's definitely been up and down. We started off the season, pretty quick at a few tracks. We're running pretty fast, and to be honest, we've had pretty good practice speed at everywhere we went. Just not turned out exactly how I wanted it to. We're getting wrecked early. I think last week I was on my lid 10 laps into New Hampshire. Bristol, I got wrecked running second. And it's just kind of been a bunch of misfortunes, and they're stacking up on each other. And, at this point in the season, I'm back 19th in points, and it's really put me in a bad position. But yeah, definitely been up and down, and it just keeps happening over and over again. A few weeks ago, I had a really good run, finished 6th at Chicago, and out early again the next week. So it's just kind of a reoccurring theme that probably needs to get handled here sooner or later.
Well, let's talk about that last mile-and-a-half race, Chicagoland. You started 14th, you finished in 6th. You had a really fast Chevrolet all night long. When you come to a place like Charlotte, is there anything you can take away from our last mile-and-a-half race at Chicagoland and sort of put it into this race in order to replicate that same success and maybe a bit more?
Yeah, mile and a halves have honestly been pretty good for me. I will say though, the one thing about Chicagoland is I was back home for that race, so I was on the big Fanatec rig, and I definitely feel a lot more comfortable on that, as you can just kind of feel more. Here in my apartment, I have a Logitech G29, so it's definitely limited on wheel movement, a lot smaller, so it's a lot harder to kind of feel everything. So I think that definitely kind of contributed to some of my success at Chicagoland. But the one thing that I know here is that I can save tires, but I gotta go, and that's one thing that I really struggle with a lot of the times is that I always save tire to the point where I can't catch back up. And at some point, I need to find an intermediate between the two, because when you watch the guys who are running 1, 2, and 3 every race, they're running fast times every single lap, and they're the fastest cars on the track no matter what. And they're able to save that extra tire. So trying to figure that out throughout the few weeks has been pretty difficult. But here at Charlotte, tire wear is definitely going to be pretty noticeable, I think. I think we're probably going to get a few groups, and then a few cars will kind of lose a pack, and we'll kind of be almost in a pack. But at the same time, once we get about 30-ish laps in, you'll start to see separation within those packs. And that's what I think I kind of got to, mitigate the distance from the back of the pack. You got to be able to get up front, and if you get up front, you can stay there, at least if you're in the draft at this track. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing tonight. And for myself here, Chicagoland, it seemed to spread out a little bit. The car was a little bit tighter. Here it's tight on entry, loose on exit. So if I can kind of reciprocate some of that tire saving success with adding a little bit of pace into it, I think that I have a good shot at running top 10 tonight, or at least finishing there.
Well, as we get to Charlotte tonight, we'll visit this track 3 different times this season, including tonight. 2 of them on the oval, the other on the road course, the Roval, if you will. And you're one of 3 North Carolina drivers that are in this 4-wide field. So is it any special when you take on Charlotte, although it's in the sim, it's technically your home track? How does that feel?
Yeah, it's actually 5 minutes down the road from me. So I love Charlotte so much. I've finally got a league win here a few years ago, and it really, no matter what league you're in, it means a lot to me to win here at Charlotte. And I know the Roval is not exactly my type of race in the road course. I'm definitely not as quick in, but coming to the Oval is so special. It's just such a historic racetrack. But I think the thing about it is that it's so much fun to race. You can run high, you can run low, you can run in the middle, and it provides great racing. And for me here, this is a track that I want to win at, probably, a lot more than any other track. There's probably only about 2 or 3 tracks that I'd rather win in at Charlotte. So, this being a track that's really close to me, it's close to my heart. And I want to do everything tonight to try to at least get a good finish, and maybe hopefully sneak up into the top 5, because that would mean a lot to me. So this is definitely one of the races where you're going to see me giving it my all. And hopefully I just don't get taken out within the first 10 laps, because that's just, like I said, that's really just been the theme of this year. So if I can somehow past lap 50, I think that I might have a shot at sneaking into the top 10. And I'm really going to try to get these guys and give them a run for their money. But I think once we get a little bit later into the race, as tires drop off, I'm going to fall off a little bit, unfortunately, but I'm going to do my best to try to keep that to a minimum and, just stay with the top guys.
On a mission to try and win the hometown race. Mikey, we really appreciate the time. Best of luck in tonight's race from Charlotte, and looking forward to seeing you guys take the speedway tonight.
Thank y'all very much, and we're going to put on a good show tonight. I can tell you that for sure.
That is Mikey Neal, driver of the number 88 Chevrolet. He was part of the KBueno Racing stable last season. He's part of his solo Buckeye Racing team this season, but still very much affiliated with those BBR drivers, and he's very excited. I'm sure that we are as well to take on Charlotte this evening. Francisco, let's talk a bit about this Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Keelan, you'll join in as well. A track that is synonymous with NASCAR racing, hosting the Coca-Cola 600, the All-Star Race, what was formerly the Winston. It is a storied venue in Concord, North Carolina that brings a lot of good racing with it.
Yeah, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Been racing here since 1960. Lights were installed sometime in the 90s here to run the All-Star race at night and the Coke 600 into a day-to-night race. Keelan and I have had the pleasure of being at the most recent 2 Coke 600s, myself in 2023 and Keelan earlier this year. And unfortunately for both of us, we had to deal with rain for most of the time.
Yeah, it was not a good time, this 2024 time when I came around. We didn't have rain all weekend until the Coke 600 Sunday race, and it was quite unfortunate. But we do have our KBRN on-track car here giving us a lap that Francisco got out there and drove. It's quite a different racetrack on both sides of the track. Francisco, tell us about it.
Yeah, 1 and 2 feels a lot longer than 3 and 4. It's a little bit of a longer radius. You could carry some more speed there, and as you go down the back straightaway, you surprisingly have to lift pretty early to turn 3 if you want to really get it to the bottom right there, and you slow down a lot more. You have to really get it to that painted line, and that's going to be a key all the way through the evening. If you can get your left sides on that painted line, there's so much more grip you can carry through the corners. Your car won't shoot up the racetrack like it'll want to do in certain instances if you're not on the paint. So you see right there, the video cut short, but I was not on the paint there, and off of turn 2, the car wants to go to the outside wall, and that'll happen both ends of the racetrack. So it's going to be important for guys either run the paint or run the wall. If you're anywhere between, it is going to be chaotic for sure. And to kind of finish off what we were talking about, the Coke Center in that rain, I feel like that's some of the worst track experience you could possibly have on your first visit. I showed up, truck race on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, just non-stop rain. But I was treated to 1,100 miles of racing or actually 900 miles of racing, on Monday Memorial Day from Charlotte Motor Speedway from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. I definitely feel like nobody else can say they did that.
That feels like going to an endurance race, right? Like a 12 hours of Sebring, you stay there the entire day, but 900 miles of stock car racing, that is a treat to many stock car racing fans, even if you have to go through the rain a bit and the clouds to get to some of that. Qualifying is underway right now from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and in just several minutes, we'll have our race coverage in race number 9 of this Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. That'll do it for us on the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show, but on the other side, Francisco, Keelan, and I will give you all of the coverage, who's hot, who's not, and what to expect here in NASCAR's birthplace, Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be right back in a moment. You're tuned in to the KBueno Racing Network.
Dirt Racing 24 is available now.
Down, 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 down. Yeah, woke up, glow up. Yeah, they still don't know us. So what? Yeah, nothing but Satan all up. Get no love. Hate talk, that's my bonus. For my quota, boy, don't nobody. I just get a check. In the jail with the set, all we do is rap. Ain't worried about the next one. Yeah. I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us, this right here in the corner. focus. All that change no focus. I am not no token. Boy, don't nobody hold.
There is no place like home. Beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, touted as America's home for stock car racing history, is the newest host for a series building its own story in the fight for a playoff berth. It's the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway next as the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to the 9th round in Season 7 of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And welcome to the coverage. We are always delighted to join you on a beautiful Wednesday night for the ride, where alongside Francisco Bacallao and Keeneland Belcher in the booth, I'm Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, as we talked about it in the pre-race show, there are 3 races left until the end of 2024, meaning not a lot of time and some sporadic racing in between. We'll have some breaks in between for Thanksgiving and the holiday season in December. So it's going to be really important for drivers to find their chance to lock into the playoffs now before the time starts getting taken off, and we won't get into that rhythm until January-ish.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that 2024 is already starting to wrap its way up out of here. We have Thanksgiving next week. We have Christmas and New Year's coming up in just a couple weeks' time, and then we'll be into the brand new year, 2025. And we can't wait to see what that has in store for us, but we have to finish off 2024 first. We have here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway to go. We still have, we have to visit the old Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is going to be fun. And now, after the schedule change made by Tyler Murray, Kenneth, we're going to have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to round out calendar 2024, replacing Martinsville. And the Brickyard's going to be one to look forward to.
And when Tyler made the changes last week, he let us know in the middle of the New Hampshire race that he will be changing several tracks in particular. We didn't know until today, but on December 18th, we're going to the Brickyard. Indianapolis will host the race number 11 of the series in December. We'll have some couple week breaks in between then, obviously for the holiday season, but Indianapolis will sure to be a lot of fun. And that will replace Martinsville on the schedule. The second race that Tyler was looking at was the first race of the playoffs, formerly North Wilkesboro Speedway. Tyler decides, let's run it back at Auto Club. We had a great race last time we were there in the daylight. This time we're going to be under the lights in SoCal, so that'll be a ton of fun. That comes our way April 16th, 2025. So a long way to go until we get then, but here's the official Season 7 schedule as it is updated with the new tracks in it. So with our little streak on the 1.5 miles from Charlotte and Atlanta in the next several weeks, when Indianapolis comes around, it's provided great racing, some strategy in between, and we're going to be in for an exciting one, especially right before we go to January, and that's when we tackle the biggest and baddest track of them all at Talladega. And then when we switch Auto Club in for North Wilkesboro, we don't have a short track in the opening round of the playoffs, so it will again change the mindset for those that are trying to enter the championship round at Homestead Miami Speedway late in the year. So it'll mean a lot when we add those new tracks, especially the drivers going back to Auto Club, given how much success we had there and how good Steven Maggio was taking his first race win in his first start. That'll be really, really special. Well, as we are in the late portions of November, we don't have a race next week, so we won't be able to properly give our Thanksgiving celebrations and honorees to everyone watching on the KBueno Racing Network. And we thought it'd be nice to give ourselves a little bit of a challenge and tell you what our favorite foods are on a Thanksgiving day.
What's going on, y'all? Keelan Belch at the KBueno Racing Network.
What's going on, guys? My name is Charlie Byer. I'm co-founder of KBueno.
Hey everyone, it's Kenneth Bueno from the KBueno Racing Network.
Got asked what my favorite Thanksgiving dish is? What y'all know about that green bean casserole with the French fried onions on top?
Favorite Thanksgiving food? For me, I'm a big fan of cheesy foods and potatoes. So if cheesy potatoes are on the board, that's what half of my plate is going to be.
My favorite Thanksgiving food is ham.
And I gotta say the best food, it's mac and cheese, man. Mac and cheese is always undefeated.
I think it's hard to go against mashed potatoes and gravy. I think if you get a big pile of that, especially if you get the gravy right, I think it's the best food on the plate for sure.
Mac and cheese, it's a popular one, but it's the most reliable one. So mac and cheese all the way.
Come on, green bean casserole nation. Come on, come on. That's that good stuff.
Keelan hyping up the green bean casserole nation. Keelan, I didn't know about all that.
Oh, come on. It's that good stuff. We need to get you on it. You get a little green bean casserole, some French fried onions on top. Oh my gosh, that stuff is so good.
Well, I've never had. Well, Francisco, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish right before we go green?
Well, I'm a pretty basic guy, so I guess I'll throw in some mandatory white rice.
Okay.
As you know, our Latins, we love our white rice. I'll throw some mac and cheese on the side there, some baked mac and cheese. You know, it hits different. And I'm not huge on turkey. I'll eat it, but I'm not huge on turkey. But if I had to choose a substitute for it, I would definitely go with some skirt steak.
All right. Not a bad decision. I mean, we all got our little favors on what we like to have on Thanksgiving Day. What are your favorite meals for Thanksgiving? What are your favorite types of dishes, whether it be desserts or whether it be just the main entrees? Let us know in the YouTube chat as we are getting ready for the green flag here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Let's take you trackside and bring you tonight's starting grid from Charlotte Motor Speedway in race number 9 of season number 7. On the front row is the 2-time winner this season and the last winner on a 1.5 mile this year. Steven Maggio will look to go 3 for 3 on wins this season. He'll try to go 2 for 2 on the 1.5 miles over the last several weeks. Colin Forrester with a hefty qualifying effort. The Florida native will start on the outside of the front row. Those two will be the first to see the green flag. Back in row number 2 is where you'll find Louisville, Kentucky native Jaden Porter in the 3rd spot. Scott Healy, who finished in 2nd last week in New Hampshire, will try and replicate that and a little more this time from P4. Back in row number 3, you'll find the inside driver Nicholas Bauman for Dark Horse Motorsports. He's got Kyle Benson, podium driver from last week, looking to get his first win of the season from P6. And then a pair of champions, Ethan Fonseca Moreno riding in 7th inside row 4, and the season 4 champion, Lawson Peel, in P8 on the outside. Ryan Pandicio with a good qualifying effort. He is 9th. Curtis Kelly, Francisco Bacalhau rounds out the top 10.
Going back to P11 is Craig Lautenslager with Mikey Neal, a pre-race or dropping him a pre-race show interviewee, starting off in the P12 position. Going back, you have a pair of Dark Horse Racing guys in the 13th and 14th spot with Trevor Haley and Juan Escamilla. Going back to 15th is AJ Green, former champion of the series, with league owner Tyler Murray. In 16th, Eric Schaefer rolling off in 17th with Brandon Banks trying to get a good run going here. In the 18th spot, Christopher Bishop in the 19th position with Timothy Cook, who's going to have an Eelwell here starting in 20th.
Back in 21st, the winner of 3 of the last 4, looking to make it his 4th win of the season in Brandon Hawken with Daniel Moore in a 77 to his outside. In row 12, we have Craig Rowe, and outside of him, Kevin D'Elia in the 53. Row 13 consists of Cody Kinsey and Kip Easley back to the racetrack this weekend. Craig Parks and Dusty Applin make up row number 14. And rounding out the top 30, you have the 76 of Tony Kivett and CJ Munier in the 89.
Michael Newbraw for Drinkin' Bros Racing is inside row 16. Austin Reedy is the first driver not to set a time in qualifying. He's back in 32nd place, while Brian Dixon and Eric Stewart round out row number 17, 33rd and 34th, with Brandon Gillis bringing the rear of our 35-car field from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Well, as we get down to it, Keelan Belsha, let's get into your keys to the race here in Concord, North Carolina.
Well, we got 4 of them here. Lay down a heater in qualifying was my first one because track position matters a lot on these 1.5 miles. Treat each end of the track differently. We saw it in Francisco's onboard lap. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, totally different corners, and they're going to have to manage that this evening, but you can run all over the racetrack, so we'll see how that goes. Take care of the right front tire. I know when I race here, I abuse that right front terribly on this 3 and 4 side of the racetrack because of how shallow of an entry it feels like it is to get to the bottom, so people are going to have to be managing that all week long. And make sure you defrost your turkey soon, Kenneth. You don't want to be the guy with a frozen turkey trying to fry it, causing a big old mess. You don't want to do that.
All right. Well, nobody wants to do that on Thanksgiving Day. I like that, though. It was one of the keys to the race. Do you think drivers will think about that, though, during the race?
I mean, they got to if they're feeding their family.
All right. Well, we'll think about that. We'll be getting ourselves hungry until the end of this race. Let's dial up our KBRN in-race reporter for tonight's race from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that is Craig Lautenslager for Murray Motorsports. Craig, you got a copy with us?
Yeah, I got a copy.
All right, Craig. Well, we are back at a 1.5 miles. Charlotte is a place you've had success at before. You won here back in Season 4. to give yourself a shot at the Championship 5? What do you try and rekindle here to try and get another win at this place?
I think just going to try to have real good long-run speed, pray that it's not a caution fest, and just rip that bottom and try to get underneath people and get around them. So pretty confident tonight, but obviously we got some great drivers here, so can't take them for can't underestimate them.
And what do you take in on this track with this car? Because as Keelan mentioned, 1 and 2 very different from 3 and 4, even though this is a typical cookie cutter track. Under the daylight, what do you keep in mind here as this race moves on forward and as those tires start to wear down a bit?
It's plowing in 3 and 4 at the moment, so kind of just ease it in there and then just be patient on the throttle. And then if the track cools off, then I think kind of try to send it a little bit harder later on, just so you can take advantage of a cooler track. But yeah, just practice has taught us a lot.
Well, Craig, we really appreciate the time. Hopefully we'll be able to tune in with you over the course of the race, and best of luck at the green flag.
Thanks.
That is Craig Lounslager, former winner here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. He'll be trying to get win number 2 at the Speedway here. We just got word that P6 qualifier Kyle Benson has disconnected from the server. It appears he had some connection issues, so he'll try and get back in the session now, but he will have to relinquish the 6th place starting spot and could be in jeopardy of falling 1 lap down. So, Francisco, that's not good news at all for Benson, who comes into this race as the points leader.
Yeah, just got the points lead, and immediately some bad luck here with some connection issues. You mentioned going a lap down. He could potentially go more laps down if he doesn't get solved immediately. So we'll just have to see what happens with the driver, the 38, if he's able to get this solved and get going here tonight, because we know that for him, who has not gotten a win yet, that regular season championship is going to provide some much-needed bonus points, and looks like it's going to be up for grabs, really. Lawson Peel has had a struggle so far this season. He's down towards the bottom half of the top 10. It's not something we necessarily expect out of Peel, but that just means that that driver's championship, at least the regular season championship, is most certainly wide open, and anybody can win it. And like I said, those bonus points are going to be crucial come playoff time, especially when we come back to this race at the cut line of the round of 10.
Well, this race can be the reset for many of those who struggled last week at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Maggio in particular went hard into the outside wall in turn 2 near lap 100, and he's got the front row seat for this race from Charlotte Motor Speedway. The pace car is down. Maggio and Forrester take us to the green flag for the 9th time this season. Let's go racing from Charlotte, and Colin Forrester, Scott Healy, and several others are crashed on the opening lap. We can't even get to turn 1 before the field stacks it up, and the yellow flag is out already. Several cars on their side. That was Craig Parks going on his side, and everyone, it appears, gets collected on the opening lap. Oh boy.
I don't even know what happened there, Kenneth. It's like when the rain was coming down at Daytona in front of Francisco.
Yeah, because Forrester immediately on the cold tires just spun right out trying to get up to speed, and I think neck-coated the 64 of Healy with his right rear right about there. And that just set everything going. Lawson Peel luckily doesn't get a piece of that one, but look how many guys get some kind of damage here. Just a huge crash on the front straightaway before they even take the green.
We're going to look from back there. This is Kip Easley. It is Duracell Menard Chevrolet. And it appears that Forster might have started in first gear. The rear tires just lifted up. He got Scott Healy involved. Well, Healy and others got sideways, along with Banks, Parks, Mikey Neal. Kip Easley luckily able to escape most of it, and then Craig Parks just going on his side. I don't know whether the grass just caught him there or what, but it looked really nasty there as he was going past the incident. Here's a look from Parks on the inside lane.
He almost went up and over when we saw it on that live shot earlier right here. See how it happened. Oh, goodness.
Oh, like
Mikey, yeah, Mikey Neal came over there, tagged him, and Parks almost ended up on his roof. Looks like he got away with just a little bit of damage on the right side, though, as Kyle Benson has made his way to the racetrack. And if anybody wanted that yellow immediately, it was Kyle Benson in the 38, so it works out pretty well for him.
We'll see if we can get another look at this. This one from the onboard look from the 99 Chevrolet of Forrester, who was right involved in the incident. And there are a lot of discussions about what gear you should start in on the 1.5 miles. Some drivers like to be more comfortable on the lower rev range in second gear, but some guys like to be maximizing the acceleration at the high end of first gear. So they do like to alternate between using either one of those gears. Either it looked like, Francisco, that Forrester was in first gear, then got sideways, or maybe he had a bit of help there from Scott Healy as he was getting sideways.
I was going to mention, noticing that onboard look from behind Forrester, it looked like he did have some help from Scott Healy. I'm not sure how much of the first gear played a role in him spinning out, because I've practiced restarts here in first gear, and then some guys will tell you they'll try to restart in first gear, so I'm not too certain that first gear necessarily caused it, but it certainly played a role. Let's watch the slow motion here on board from Scott Healy. So right about here, there's the green light. We're under green now, and you can see Healy's right on his back bumper. That's not going to help Forrester Case, and maybe some slight contact, and then definitely right here finishes him off.
It just looks like as he's backing up, obviously there's nothing that Healy can do, and then he gets hit from the ricocheting Forrester. That's Lawson Peel, who barely gets away from that. Still fifth right now, but plenty of others got involved. Tyler Murray, as we said, Brandon Banks, our pre-race interview driver. Mikey Neal was also in it. Curtis Kelly, who's had a solid season until now, going spinning there in that 5-hour energy car on the right side. Craig Parks, as we said, going on his side with the contact from Neal. And so it creates a big-time stack-up. As we'll try and get a better look at this. And that was from Nicholas Baumann all the way in the back. So we'll be under yellow for the first time tonight without even completing a single lap under green, with Steven Maggio, the head honcho, and there's Kyle Benson, as Keelan mentioned, finally back on the racetrack, just letting the entire field by. He had to start from the pit lane in order to get back into it, but he's probably thanking his lucky stars, Keelan, that the yellow came out when it did, because now he's on par with the rest of the field.
Yeah, this is one of those racetracks that has the opportunity of providing long green flag racing. So if he got stuck a lap down and this race just kept ticking off laps, it would have been a hole he had to climb out of, but he was definitely fortunate for that lap 1 yellow. But Kenneth, when I was making my keys for the race, I wasn't thinking restarts were going to be a huge concern here, because we typically don't see issues like that in first gear, and I think it was just the combination of cold tires first gear and contact from behind. It just jumbled everybody up. Just not something we were expecting coming into tonight, and it's something that happened. Always expect the unexpected, I guess.
But not the first time that we've seen a crash happen on the restart. Several seasons ago with this car, we had a big-time stack-up at the front of the field. When you think of guys like Lance Hill, Jesse Prees, I believe it was back in the Season 4 race that it happened under the lights on a restart, and that was late in the race, so you can never really count out any possibility of a mistake on the restart, and that makes it 2 races in a row to which we've had a hiccup on the green flag restart or an initial start, as we had Lawson Peel go right in the middle of the field, missing a shift and getting stacked up with everyone behind him as we took the green flag late in that one. So we'll double up the field and try this one again, try a proper green flag start with Steven Maggio on the front row, Jaden Porter this time on the outside lane. Colin Forrester, in his sense, has dropped to 35th, dead last on the racetrack, right behind Kyle Benson, who missed the start due to internet connectivity issues, and Forrester not looking good right now. Plenty of damage on the front end. He finished 31st after crashing out at New Hampshire last week. So lots of negatives for drivers at the beginning of this race, but hopefully the positive is we can get ourselves into a long green flag run and get this one properly started. Nicholas Baumann on the inside of the second row, Lawson Peel on the outside, following Jaden Porter. We'll keep an eye on those two. Those have had quite a history here at Charlotte Motor Speedway in recent memory. So here's Maggio taking the green flag on lap number 5 of 134. Can we get this one cleanly? Maggio gets to the green flag. We're back underway from Charlotte.
A lot cleaner already than the first start of the race, and the middle portion of the field is pretty spread out. Some guys probably laying back, trying not to cause an issue, and as you look further back in the field, just a lot more spread out. But up at the front, Maggio gets clear for the position. Porter moves into second. Looks like he's trying to be defensive against Nicholas Baumann, as Ethan Fonseca and Lawson Peel go side by side for P4. Bauman's going to move up the racetrack, and here comes Ethan moving in third.
Almost looked like Bauman was pushing Porter to go to the inside of Maggio. Those are 3 KBueno Racing cars in the top 5 now, with Moreno on the inside of Bauman and Maggio holding out in front by at least a car length or 2. We noticed that Bauman had been one of the faster drivers on mile and a half. So remember his pole at Las Vegas, his first and only career pole right now in this series, Keelan. Then he fell back under long green flag strategy. And the same happened at Chicagoland. A really fast car took the race lead, but as the tires wore down, Bauman did not stand a chance. So there has to be a lesson learned here for Bauman and the rest of Dark Horse Motorsports. They have fast cars, but they use up the tires too early.
And that's something that he's going to continue to learn, because remember, Kenneth, he's only a rookie in this 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series as we ride along with the Charlie Byer photography onboard camera. He is only a rookie, and he has been putting together some very good starts in this series to this point. He has shown that he is a guy who can compete, and as these races start to come to him, I think today is going to be a big learner for him, because this track, I believe, as far as mile and a halves go, this is probably the worst on your tires. So this is going to be one he's going to have to learn.
And we've got a spinner. There's trouble in the back.
It's Kevin D'Elia.
Kevin D'Elia was the lap car in front of the leaders, and he is facing backwards in turn 2.
Yeah, we just saw him when we were riding on board. D'Elia was getting lapped, and it was much slower compared to the leaders, and it looked like contact with Ryan Pandiccio as they were trying to work their way around him is what sent him around.
So slow on the outside is D'Elia. There's Porter and Moreno in the fight for second going around. And here's where Pandiccio gets across. They're 3 wide on the front straightaway. And yeah, just a hip check there, sending D'Elia straight into the wall. Eric Schaefer with nowhere to go. He gets the hit. Curtis Kelly getting out of harm's way, and nobody else gets involved in the incident but for D'Elia. And that's a nasty hit, Francisco, that he has to take there, and nothing that he could have done. He was staying out of the way. We'll look on board with D'Elia.
I think Eric Schaefer's the one that's going to come off worse than all of this, just because of the straight-on hit for the engine. That's not going to do him any good.
And the toe link destroyed on the right front for D'Elia as he smacked the outside wall considerably. And that will create another caution flag tonight, our second of the evening in just 9 laps complete. A lot of them under yellow. So D'Elia already a lap down. He'll have to get his Chevrolet repaired and see what he can do there, while Maggio had led them all back to the line and has picked up the iRacing official pace car. Now it makes it 1-2-3 for BBR cars. I would have said Chevrolets, but Maggio was the only one here running a Camry. Everyone else here running Chevrolets in Moreno and Porter. Solid start, Keelan Belsha, to BBR's run. 2 of them eliminated in last week's race from New Hampshire. Both of them in the same way in turns 1 and 2, just overcorrecting the car hard into the outside wall. We know that Maggio was just creeping up to the top 10 of standings. Moreno had just started getting his season together, missed last week, and Porter had the points lead at New Hampshire before crashing out and is now P2 behind Kyle Benson. So I'd say the solid start despite the chaos early for the BBR trio.
Yeah, and especially Moreno up there in second, who has showed a bit of possibly a championship hangover, hasn't been able to quite crack into contention for a race win. And outside of really the Steven Stempian Alliance win at Daytona, and Maggio's win at Auto Club, they have not been able to crack back into victory, well, Chicagoland. So besides that, Moreno and Porter back there, they have yet to get into victory lane yet, so they'll be looking for that opportunity this evening. Running second and third is a good start.
And 2 of them looking for their first win this season, Francisco, Moreno and Porter, with Porter getting so close multiple times, several top 3 finishes, one of them behind this man right here, Stephen Maggio at Auto Club Speedway, just short of the race W, just shy of the W as well at Richmond Raceway, where Brandon Hawken had put away, but Porter and AJ Green were separated by the thousandths of seconds just for P2. Say that they desperately want a W here, knowing especially in Charlotte's case that Jaden has found success here in Season 5, where he pulled away on strategy and outright pace all around the board to get his second win that season.
Yeah, Porter historically has been good here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. You go back just 1 season before and was in contention to win in a very heated battle with Craig Lautenslager, but a full send by Lautenslager in the final corner on the last lap resulted in what at the time was the closest finish in 4-wide history, and to date it's the second closest finish. Just 0.6 of a second separated those two at the start-finish line, and granted Mountain Slugger a spot in the championship round, but Porter, Kenneth, every single time we've been to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, he's up there in contention, and BBR Senior is going to need this kind of a run. They have not been to victory lane yet. BBR Junior has been the one collecting victories so far.
Yeah, with Steven Stempian and the other Steven in Maggio. There's a look at Porter, who did run last season's race with the Xfinity Series cars here, but him and Moreno didn't do that well. Both of them finished 22nd and 23rd after both of them started either on the outskirts or just inside the top 10. So it was a good start for both of them. However, at the end of that race, when it came down to a late race finish and a late race restart, fell into the hands of TJ Bursk. These guys in Porter and Moreno did not find any success. As for the story with Colin Forrester, who was involved in our opening lap crash, he's still on pit road getting his car fixed, and so is Eric Schaefer back there in that Bass Pro Shops Chevrolet. But Forrester still has yet to find himself a lap down. Kevin D'Elia, in the meantime, he's disconnected from the session. He is out this season in this race, so D'Elia will not be racing the rest of tonight from Charlotte, as Forrester and Schaefer will bring up the rear of the field, and we'll try this one again.
Oh!
Is there drama there? That's Eric Schaefer off pit road.
I'm not sure. Oh, he spun on the exit of pit road. That's what happened.
Yeah, I think he was just coming off with the cold tires there and trying to get up to speed. Just smoked the tires a little bit. I've had that happen before too, Kenneth. It's a humbling feeling.
I think every driver has
he went around.
Trouble there, and there's a bump right after the pit lane exit. And it's right about there where that yellow line starts.
Yeah,
and it looks
right
like the car
there.
just
Look,
kicked up, just went sideways.
Yeah, I mean, that's happened to me. I'm not sure if it's happened there, but that pit exit is definitely not interesting, and you can see it was at a bad time. The field was just approaching him. Usually it happens for me in the middle of the pit exit, around the middle 1 and 2 towards the exit of the corner. I feel like those bumps are a lot worse when you're at a higher enough speed, but the apron here is notoriously bumpy.
Oh, so Schaefer finds a bit of drama there. The field has a bit of a sight in front of them, but we are doubled up and ready for the restart. This one will be number 2 of the night at lap 13. With a pair of BBR cars on the front row, Maggio and Moreno will take us back to the green flag. A bit of a late start by Maggio, and it catches Moreno off guard. Jaden Porter will take second back to turn 1, Keelan.
Porter going to take a look to the outside, maybe see if he can get a run in 1 and 2. That's the beauty of Charlotte here, Kenneth. You can run top, bottom, middle, anywhere will get you momentum, as now he's going to take a peek down the inside. Going to get a run down into 3 and 4, side by side for the race lead here early.
Maggio playing defense in the middle lane. Porter having to cling to the blue and white paint on the inside of the racetrack. Battle for the lead, and Maggio tank slaps the outside wall. Jaden Porter makes it the first proper lead change on lap 13, and we're
look at that move
in the grass.
Wow, shades of Dale Earnhardt, and he's going to clear out. Move Peel up to second.
Wow, what a
Lawson
move.
Peel with a power move on the inside. He'll take the wall with him off turn 2, and he wants more. The Mississippi native to the inside for the race lead.
What a run to the bottom there. Not quite going to stick for the race lead, but he's going to stick with him through 1 and 2 here. Going to try to get that side draft right there. That was a heck of a move. Francisco went down in the grass, 3 wide, made it stick. Now he's going for the race
look at
lead.
that.
He's going to get it. What a move by Lawson Peel, 4th to 1st.
Watch the crossover here by Porter.
Porter on the inside with Moreno up top to give help. There are 4 cars on the top lane giving drafting help to the Exalta Chevrolet, who will take the spot up front. Now Moreno wants to power on the outside of his teammate, while Maggio goes head-to-head with Nicholas Baumann. And who's in the background, Keelan Belsha? The Canadian Brandon Hawken, as Moreno dives under. He wants the lead this time in turn 1.
You didn't think we could keep him back there for long, did you, Kenneth? He's going to find his way to the front before this thing's over. And here on lap 16, he's already making moves up there as Ethan Fonseca Moreno takes the race lead back. This was the championship battle we saw at Homestead last week. They are back 1-2 as Nicholas Baumann's up on that top seam, ripping the fence. Oh, might have almost got a look at the wall, but we got great racing here.
Charlie Byer Photography onboard camera with Moreno in turn 1.
And you know, Kenneth, these are some of the first laps that Ethan has led since Daytona when it's not been due to strategy. You recall at Las Vegas, he led a couple laps on the off strategy there, but these are the first laps he's led like this on the same strategy as the majority of the field, and it's a great turnaround for Ethan. We saw him at the Mount of Halves display some kind of pace back at Chicagoland, struggled a little bit at Las Vegas, but here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, a race that he's performed well at, dominated in SJRL in a 267 lap affair on that one, and was able to take the win and some cash prize as well. He has some incentives to try and capture his first win of the season. If you recall, last season he was up there, up in the front, contending with TJ Bursk, but on a late restart got loose and went around, ending his successful evening. He's going to try and right the ship here tonight.
And for Moreno, if you look back in the memory bank, Season 6 here at Charlotte, he did lead some laps. A lot of that was under strategy. Could not beat TJ Bursk. And again, we talked about that below 20th place finish that he had along with Jaden Porter. But he did have some good moments. He was one of the better drivers on the mile and a half with those Xfinity Series cars. And right here, right now, lap 19 is where he's taking control, and he is starting to pull away from Lawson Peel behind. Brandon Hawken casually settles into third, just got by the entire mess of race cars, Keelan, that had built up all the way back to this battle between Craig Lownslager and Curtis Kelly at the edge of the top 10, and add some more to the tally. Lots of these guys were involved in that opening lap scuffle when Colin Forster got loose in front of the field, and all of a sudden they've got a shot. Now they're at the front.
Yeah, it's been a complete turnaround as the yellow is out once again. Third time today we will see the caution flag as there is trouble in turns 1 and 2. Craig Parks back here slow on the racetrack. Looks like he may have been part of the incident.
Oh,
we'll get a look on a KBRN replay here.
Looks like it was Cody Kinsey that had the first trouble. Got some help from Mikey Neal off of turn 4, sent him spinning through the infield, back up across the racetrack. A couple of guys missed him, but unfortunately Craig Parks just runs right into the back of him right there.
And that's a bear tap from the right front as well, Keelan.
Yeah, that turn 4 is sketchy, and it is really something that I've noticed in these next gens that a lot of the intermediates, the longer we get into the runs, that rear tires get slick and it gets really sketchy back there off of turn number 4, as Kinsey, just the one who caught it right there. He did a good job not sliding up into anybody. Craig Parks tagged him a little bit, but for the bigger picture, he didn't cause a big pile up, just kind of slid the race car around, and looks like he'll take that slap to the left rear and hopefully not have too much damage from it, as we see Colin Forster avoiding it right there. He got really close.
He wanted nothing to do with this secondary incident. Forster was the main catalyst of the first caution on the opening lap. And it turns out we've got drivers on pit road. Francisco Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who had the race lead at lap 20 when the caution came out, is leading a good amount of cars in.
Being aggressive, and it looks like he was almost about to miss his pit stall. Unsure. I think he did. He missed the stall.
So Moreno is going to have to go another way around while Maggio and company come in.
That is not ideal, because not only do you lose the track position you had, but now you didn't get the tires you wanted to come down for. So this is going to cost him all his track position.
There's Steven Maggio off pit road. That bump that caught Eric Schaefer off guard. That Eris Toyota Camry just hopped over that little bump there. Only several cars have taken pit road. And call it at least 4 or 5 cars that have entered the lane. So not a lot, specifically at the front of this field. And now we got to watch and see what Moreno does here, Keelan, because missing your pit stall obviously is a big deal. He'll lose a ton more track position from pitting a second time, but I'd say the only positive here is that he lost so much track position if he pitted already on this lap, that pitting a second time around just because he missed the first time isn't going to cost him that much. At most, it's going to cost him either 1 or 2 positions, which he can make up.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what he'll do here. He'll probably pit this next time around, and I think if I've noticed it correctly, Charlotte still does not have the shorter cautions that we have on some of the other tracks, as these cautions have felt a little bit long. Maybe it's just me, but he should have the opportunity to come down pit road here, get 4 fresh tires on it without pit road closing on him, and get right back out there.
Well, let's dial up our KBRN in-race reporter on our another caution in this race. Craig Lownslager joins us now from 7th. Craig, you got a copy?
Yep, 10-4.
All right, Craig. Well, it's been chaotic. I'd say that for number 1. You were very close, nearly involved in the opening lap incident on the restart. You've had some other cautions along the way, but you sit here in the top 10. What have you learned so far, even though you haven't had that much green flag action yet?
I've learned that I want to be on the bottom, but I might have to start working the top a little bit. there's been some cars in front of me that have been holding me up on the bottom, and then some other cars that have gotten around me on the top. So that draft's pretty strong on the top sometimes. So I might have to rethink some things, but I'm still pretty confident.
You've seen a lot of the lanes take shape here. Have you found any lane that feels the best, whether it's on the inside, the middle, or the very top?
I mean, I like how the bottom feels, but top seems to be getting a good run. So we just got to do what we got to do to hold our position, I think, and save tire, and then go around people as they blow their tires off.
All right, Craig. Well, we appreciate the time. We appreciate the input, and best of luck on the next restart. That's Craig Lautenslager, our KBRN in-race reporter. He'll be joining us if we end up getting more yellows along the way. He sits in position number 7. We're going to be ready for another restart in about a lap or so. We've got some input in the KBRN chat. King Diamond Production says, what we talking about? The stuffing is where it's at. Tammy Reed says, green bean casserole, yum. And then we've got Charlie Byer, who joins us now in the chat, and he says, this can't be said next week, so it has to be said now. Happy Thanksgiving. What are your guys' plans for Turkey Day? Francisco, what are yours?
Well, I'm going to some relative's house, and we're going to have some dinner there, some good times. You know how Latin parties tend to get, especially on special holidays. And then afterwards, me and my girlfriend were heading up north to Tampa and having a Friendsgiving with some of her friends up there for the weekend.
All right, Keelan, what are your plans?
Well, I reckon I'm going to eat some ham, green bean casserole, twice baked potatoes at the house, watch some football, and then I'll be working a few hours in the PM. They said time and a half that day, so I said, sign me up. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be working time and a half and eating in between.
Hey, while everyone's getting full off of the food, you're out here rising and grinding. I respect it. I respect it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, you're right about that.
All right. It's a soldier on for Thursday. I mean, the good thing, you may not be working Friday. I don't know if you are, but...
Not sure yet.
All right. Well, Black Friday is always worse than Thanksgiving if you're working, especially in retail. But, I mean, as for my plans, probably going to be with my family all night, having some food and just enjoying the atmosphere. We are going to watch the dog show. If you haven't watched the dog show on Thanksgiving, you're missing out. It's the best show on television on Thanksgiving Day if it's not NFL football. Let's get back to the action. Lap 25, and who would you know? Lawson Peel, Brandon Hawken are the men occupying the front row on this most recent restart. Remember, Maggio and Moreno are those two on the freshest set of Goodyear Eagles. Back to green from Charlotte, and there's the Sucker Punch Chevrolet on the outside giving the fight in turn 1.
Huge stack up behind Daniel Moore on the restart, kind of separating the field from the top 10 on backwards. And there you see a little bit further back, just a big move as Lawson Peel drifts down low, trying to see if he can hold on to the race lead on Brandon Hawken. He's going to try and go all the way to the bottom. He's going to miss the paint just a little bit, so that could give Hawken the advantage on the front straightaway.
Hawken will get the run off turn 4, and he'll take the race lead at the stripe. Peel's not giving up yet in the run back to the first corner. He'll put his Chevrolet back to the inside, so it's not quite done yet. Jaden Porter hanging around in third was giving the draft to Peel down the back straightaway. This time a little bit out of reach with Nicholas Baumann trying to search for that third spot. Peel remains down low, and the Canadian of Brandon Hawken stays there. What a send by Peel, and not enough to hold off the Chevrolet of Hawken on the outside.
You know, Kyle Larson, he won the award for Cup Series Restarter of the Year. I think if we had that award in 4 wide, Hawken would win it 10 times out of 10. As every race that we have had restarts with him on the front row, he has seemed to put himself in the best position to succeed. He hung with Peel for 3 or 4 laps there as Peel has gotten back around him, but Hawken's going to take a look to the inside here, going into 3 and 4, sending it in on the bottom, going to slide up in front of him. Watch the crossover. Here comes Peel.
Same move that Peel employed in 1 and 2, and it gets Peel to run on the inside. Dark Horse Motorsports in a toe-to-toe battle for 4th place. Trevor Haley and Nicholas Baumann, the red and blue Ford Mustang Dark Horses you see in the background. But for Brandon Hawken, how about the continuous fight? One of the best races for the lead we've seen in a minute here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Porter now under fire from the Ford Mustangs behind in third.
Lawson Peel's done a fantastic job with the side draft. Hawken has basically about cleared him 2 or 3 times, and Peel's used that side draft to stay in this battle. And they've been throwing slide jobs at each other one after another. That could hurt the right front tire, but watch this. Peel might try to send here, and he's going to do so. He gets it to the bottom, but he's not clear, so he's going to have to keep it there on the bottom, and that could give Hawken the advantage here off of turn 2. Big run.
And what they're doing is they're downshifting into 4th gear in the middle of the corner, so they're trying to use as much throttle as possible. When they send it in, Peel tried the inside, and Hawken shut the door and said, "You won't try again." Hawken, the new race leader at lap 30.
And he got tired of those deep sends that Peel was employing to force Hawken to use the crossover. That was the first time we saw one of them defend the bottom like that. That's what Hawken just did. Worked out pretty well for him, as he's going to hold Peel behind him for at least now, as Jaden Porter now going to try to set his sights on that 12 car in front of him. Nicholas Bauman back there, and Trevor Haley rounding out the top 5.
Francisco, there is a sea of Ford Mustangs behind Jaden Porter. When you look at Dark Horse Motorsports, they are there, and they've got Juan Escamilla now, the tertiary car in the group, the white one in the back on the outside of Curtis Kelly. Then Ryan Pandicio, Craig Launslager, Austin Reedy, and Tyler Murray. That goes all the way back to 11th place. So the only other manufacturer in that group is Kelly in that Toyota Camry, the singular one in this top 10 right now, but plenty of Fords all the way back there as we're going to look at Ethan Fonseca Moreno as he's cutting through the field, and he sits at the moment 23rd.
And he's trying to make a move on Christopher Bishop here for the 22nd spot. He's gained just over 10 positions since the restart. He's been taking his time, being a little bit patient, just making sure he plays his cards right, doesn't get involved into any serious business, and if the race goes long enough, the strategy could work out in his favor. He could definitely try something different with it. We know that if these guys go green most of the way, there's probably going to be 2 stops there. Depending how long you have to sit on pit road is probably something he could employ, but we'll just have to see as the race pans out. Steven Maggio, the car who led the field onto the pit lane there, has now just moved into the 16th spot ahead of Brian Dixon, so keep an eye out for Steven Maggio as this run progresses as well.
Remember, they are on the freshest tires of the field. Nobody else has come down pit road for the most part. A lot of it has been for damage repair because of the plenty of cautions we've seen already, but not a lot for strategy. Maggio and Moreno are thinking this one is going to go long. When these guys pit, then Maggio and Moreno will have the track position to go with it, but they will have the oldest tires. How about almost 3 wide between the teammates? Juan Escamilla is punching his way through the field. The Cardinarks Ford Mustang is on the inside, and he's got 4th place, Keelan.
That's a great YouTube channel if you're not subscribed to it, Kenneth. I know you haven't heard about him before today, but it is a great YouTube channel. Great paint scheme. Juan Escamilla always coming in with some schemes that are relatable for some.
Oh, Peel to the inside for the lead.
As Peel takes a look going into 3, he sends it down in there, using that move he's been using all day, and he's not going to open up the bottom for a crossover on corner exit. Hawken may still try to make himself some room going into turn number 1.
And Peel's going to go through the grass. He cut through the throttle wolf and gave Hawken the outside. And while Hawken runs that second seam, he'll try the crossover here out of 2. That's something he was using, Francisco, at Chicagoland, running up high and then arcing the car down low. It works here in the battle for the top spot that continues to lap 35 and beyond.
Man, these guys have been using the side graft so aggressively. It's always been a possibility to do something like that, but you never see guys be this aggressive with it. And here for the lead, they're absolutely being aggressive with it. Just watching a little bit further back outside the top 10, there's been a mess going on behind Curtis Kelly and Scott Healy. Tyler Murray got in the wall a handful of times that almost caused a couple of stack-ups. So just the field's kind of clogged up behind the 71 and the 64. They're side drafting each other for that 9th position, and Steven Maggio is now finding himself potentially inside the top 10. He is working around Kyle Benson, or at least trying to AJ Green all the way in the mix. There's a huge battle back there for outside the top 10.
Lots of them almost 3 wide. We know Colin Forrester is in the back of that as he was involved in the opening lap caution, while Hawken has pulled away to the tally of 0.2 of a second. And nobody in this sense has really pulled away from each other. And here comes Escamilla back to the bottom. This is Austin Reedy, who was sitting 3rd, now settling in 4th after the pass from Escamilla. Reedy led the most laps the last time we were here at Charlotte. If it wasn't TJ Burst, he led 39 of the 134 laps. This season, he only has 2 top 10s in a 1.5-mile race so far. With Chicagoland and Las Vegas, he's done well at these types of speedways. The charm of what's been overall a rocky season for the Canes Ford Mustang as he battles with Escamilla here for 3rd place. It's only going to allow the top 2 to continue and escape Keelan, as everyone in the mid-pack, like Francisco said, is hustling and bustling.
Yeah, Steven Maggio and Kyle Benson, 2 guys who had some trouble here in the early laps as Maggio went down pit road and Benson lagged out. They are racing each other for 13th with AJ Green in the mix right here as Maggio has climbed his way up into the top 10. He is making moves right now, Kenneth. That 51 car has a lot of speed.
To give you a reference, he's got 22 lap fresher tires than the rest of the field, as everyone's gone the 39 that we've run under yellow and green, while Maggio made that pit stop all that while ago with Ethan Fonseca Moreno right behind him. So here's a look at the race leader. Hawken on the left, the mid-pack battle, Steven Maggio cutting through the field on the right.
And look who's just in front of him, Nicholas Baumann, who we documented was closer to the front of the field and on this long run is kind of falling back, much like we saw at Las Vegas and at Chicagoland. Has a lot of speed, but just the tire conservation is not quite there, and he falls back on these runs. And there goes Steven Maggio right by him to move up into 8th. So this 51 could find himself up in the top 5 or top 2 well before pit stops.
Well, now we are going to talk about pit stops here, Keelan, because we're 40 laps in. And here at Charlotte, this window with 75% fuel in the tanks, you could go at least 45 to 50. We've seen some drivers stretch it, and we probably will in this case with how much things have separated now, especially for the top spot. But this is the window. It opens right now, so drivers can start considering whether or not this is the time for them to come down pit road. That will give Maggio the proverbial race lead. But again, if it stays green, he's got the older tires. Everyone is going to have to unlap themselves and get by. It's going to be all about distance and whether the leader right now, Brandon Hawken, if he can escape with the race lead off of pit stops, what does he do in the attempt to catch up to Peel, or rather Maggio and Moreno, who have gotten on the fresh tires early?
It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, but I feel like Hawkins' strategy right now, especially with the caution laps that we had, if we had the race go green all the way, this would be maybe a 2-stop, but a 3-stop likely. We have the opportunity to turn this race into a 2-stop race right now with the caution laps that we've had. These guys are going to try to stretch it out maybe to about lap 50 or so, and that would give them the opportunity to make this thing a 2-stop race, and I think that's what the strategy will be. Try to stretch this tank as long as you can, because you have had the opportunity with many caution laps run. So I feel like for Hawken, we know him as a guy who doesn't like to go to pit road very often. He won New Hampshire and Richmond by only stopping once, and same for Watkins Glen. So he's not going to hit pit road if he doesn't have to, and that's got to be what he's thinking in that 98 up there.
And while we've seen Maggio cut his way through the field, we haven't seen the same Francisco for Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's on the left side of your screen, and as he just slips into 19th place, getting by Daniel Moore, Maggio is already in 7th place.
Do recall that the 51 didn't go all the way to the back. As contact between a little bit further back, it looks like the 14 of Baumann slid up and tagged somebody and got loose. And they saved it luckily, but Maggio didn't lose as much track position as Ethan did on the pit stop strategy, so that definitely is what hurt. As Maggio gets into the back of Juan Escamilla, gets him sideways, he's able to keep it going, but Maggio almost up in the top 5, didn't start as far back as Moreno, but Moreno definitely not quite as fast moving up through the field as the 51 has been.
Escamilla suffering from the right front wear down syndrome that Keelan, you talked about in your Keelan's Keys to the Race. Keep in mind where the right front tire is and watch the wear, as Escamilla made moves early in the run, fell back with Austin Reedy, almost went into the outside wall off of turn 2 a couple laps ago, and already hemorrhaging position. Forrester, who, wow, put up a comeback after the lap 1 incident, has a fresh race car, and despite the obstacles, didn't fall a lap down once. And he said, well, my race didn't really start. It starts right now.
Yeah, that SpongeBob pit crew, they sure went to work making sure that car got all freshened up, as he has now put himself up in the 7th position. But yeah, that right front tire that Escamilla is having an issue with, especially with how hot this racetrack is right now, that's going to cause you to push up the racetrack. I know pre-race we were looking at a 111-degree track temp, so as these tires wear, and that's the price you pay for driving so deep into these corners, trying to make up as many positions as you can. That's the price you're going to pay on the back end of this run before the pit stops. And a guy like Escamilla, a guy like Baumann and Haley, who have slipped through the field, they're going to be looking forward to this green flag pit stop cycle to start, as Steven Maggio has naturally driven his way all the way up to the 4th position.
He's catching up to Austin Reedy. Still a bit of time left to make up in order to get to second place, Lawson Peel, and then the race leader who's up by a second and a 10th, Brandon Hawken. But it's easy work here for Maggio, still on the fresher tires. He beats Austin Reedy off turn 4, and in turn will actually help his teammate Jaden Porter get a little closer to the Canes machine, right behind there in 4th place. So it may just be a BBR helping one another there, lending a hand on 2 different strategies as we're onwards of lap 49, nearing lap 50. And this is the point, Francisco, to where you may start to consider coming down pit road. With the cautions that we've had so far, though, make that argument. You've been able to save a bit of fuel if you're a driver in the field, but now is the time. At least you got to start thinking about it, although no one has pulled the trigger yet.
No, not at all. I don't think you'll see it for maybe another 5 or 10 laps for most of these guys. We did have a pretty good amount of caution laps in that run, and Charlotte, you actually get a pretty good mileage anyways. So sometime around lap 55 to lap 60, you're going to expect to see most of the field on and off pit road. Just remember, just a handful of guys did not make their way into the lane on that caution, or only a handful did. So those guys are definitely going to stay on, try to see if they can get a luckily timed caution while most of the field's a lap down, because that's going to be the best way to employ the strategy. And actually, Lawson Peel's going to make his way onto the pit road.
So Lawson Peel is in this time, lap 50. And he may have gotten some right front damage as well, probably a tick to the outside wall. But as for the strategy, he's really the only one to come down. No one else follows, so it may be another lap or 2 before we'll see who can come in and follow Peel's strategy. It will be at least a lap better on tires. And Peel has done the Moreno effect. He misses his pit stall.
That is not the kind of mistakes you want to make here, Kenneth. He's just either not paying attention, or some kind of mental lapse just happens there, because that's the second time we've seen this by somebody. And that means he has to go another lap. I think fortunately for him, he's going to have enough fuel, but imagine doing that without having enough fuel to go another lap.
And that's going to lose him a lot of time as well, Keelan.
The 2 mistakes that we've seen are from some of the 2 most veteran drivers in the series, the guys who have won championships in here before, the guys who were battling for the championship last year. These are just simple mistakes that you cannot make when you're going for a win here, especially with how fast Brandon Hawken has been. If this worked out and he made his stall the first time around, it would have been a valiant attempt at a short pit, but the opportunity is not there anymore for the 12 car, as Curtis Kelly in the 71 going to be the next taker on the pit road. How much longer will that 98 ride it out, as Bauman is also in?
There are more drivers on pit road this time. Bauman, Kelly, and several others, as there's Peel still getting his service right now. Daniel Moore, it appears, is coming. Dusty Applin, the rookie, has followed on to pit road, so it's a bigger group this time around. So is Jaden Porter. He calls for lap 53. This is his marker to enter pit lane this time by, and he's got plenty of drivers with him. Escamilla, Green, Trevor Haley, and CJ Munier, and Colin Forrester all the way in the background. Mind you, that's Timothy Cook. Forrester will stay out.
And the thing about the mistake by Peel, Kenneth, is that essentially it's like a self-serving penalty, if you will, because he basically went through the pit lane at pit road speed like a drive-through. So he maybe won't quite lose a lap, but he'll certainly lose a lot of time, and Mescamilla is going to lose time with that. It looks like the 98 of Brandon Hawken has made his way into the pit lane, and the caution comes down.
The caution flies at lap 55. And it
might have been Daniel Moore.
Possibly with Daniel Moore. We'll keep a look at it, but these are the several guys that are in. Peel has fallen 2 laps down in the meantime, and as Brandon Hawken comes down pit road, that is a bulk of the field that will be a lap down as they exit now.
Kenneth, that works excellent in the favor of the guys that pitted under that caution, because most of them are on the lead lap now. You look at the cars that are on the lead lap. Hawken was the last one on the lead lap, and Jaden Porter's the first one lap down. So everybody else is going to get trapped a lap down unless they get the wave round, since most of the field will have to pit. So, wow, a huge shakeup in the running order this will be, but a great break for the guys on that alternate strategy.
And we found the accident. Christopher Bishop, Daniel Moore. And it's that same bump in turn 1. I think that Bishop just got loose up ahead and gets Daniel Moore in it, so it's a 2-car accident. And mind you, this is below the racing line. So in most cases, iRacing will not call this, but at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Keelan, they do consider right below the racetrack as part of the racing surface. So if you do find yourself spinning in that pit road exit area, you will find yourself triggering the yellow flag, and that's what happens here.
And several mistakes we have seen today on pit road, from missing your stall or spinning out off of it. We have just seen it all today. This has proven itself to be one of the most treacherous pit roads that we're going to encounter on the 4-wide season, as everybody who has not pit yet now taking the opportunity to get 4 tires and Sunoco Racing fuel in their vehicles, and we'll see probably this next time around how it all shakes out for everybody. See who's on the lead lap and who's coming out with a race lead. Maggio up in that first pit stall up there. Forrester right behind him. Seeing how it's all going to shake out coming off pit road here, Kenneth.
Maggio, remember, and Moreno had pitted earlier in this race. Benson and Lounslager will be the first
Newbraw
ones
stays
out,
out,
and Kyle Benson will lead the field off pit road. Michael Newbraw, Cody Kinsey have elected to stay out. We'll keep in mind if they end up electing for this decision for sure, or whether they will take another attempt down pit road. Newbraw was supposed to be our pre-race interview last week at New Hampshire. We couldn't catch him at the moment, so we weren't able to talk to him, but he's in the race lead now in his Taco Bell machine. Kinsey is several cars behind in that black and white and red Chevrolet, right behind Dusty Applin in the Can-Am car. So they'll stay out there, but Maggio leads them off pit road, it appears, as Benson and Lounslager might have given up their positions. And that was a close call, Francisco, for Brandon Hawken and company as they were coming down pit road. They could have easily been a lap down. They are not. And as for everyone that sits 19th on back, they will be behind the leaders by a lap. That includes Jaden Porter, Juan Escamilla, Benson Lounslager, and Lawson Peel. A big list.
Really, it's Brandon Hawken, the one that got the break. The AND company certainly didn't get a good break with that caution flag. Hawken is currently being scored in the 9th position. Newbraw goes forward with the decision to stay out, which is an interesting one, but he did only pit 34 laps to go, so it was on the strategy of hitting on the last caution that we had most recently, but interesting decision not to pit.
I wonder if it's a strategy, Francisco. Keep everybody trapped a lap down.
Maybe. We've seen this before. I recall at Phoenix that Jaden Porter did this, and it left 5 or 6 cars on the lead lap. And I think another instance of this we saw at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, I want to say it was last season or the season before, Kenneth. There was a caution during pit stops, and all of a sudden the field gets shaken out, and somebody, at least one person, stays out and causes this kind of kerfuffle. So we'll just have to see how can some of these guys that are fast and were top 5 on speed recover from now being trapped a lap down, because now it's going to be a battle for the free pass.
It's going to be a battle for 19th. That's Tyler Murray's place where he sits right now, and he's got plenty of his teammates there, as we mentioned with Benson and Lounslager, but I mean, Porter, Peel, they've been some of the fastest cars all night long. What's worse for Peel, though, he's going to be at the tail end of that group behind Christopher Bishop. So it will be a long road for those guys. And now, you know, at the beginning, while everyone was hoping that this race would go green, Keelan, now they're hoping that the yellow flags come out so they can get the wave.
So that's definitely going to be how they will be thinking about this race, as just, I believe, Newbraw and Kinsey staying out. That's really just going to mess up strategy for everybody else. They're not going to be eligible for the wave round. All these guys 1 lap down, and it just really throws a wrench in everything. And it's definitely a strategy if that's what Newbraw is going for. The opportunity to not let a lot of guys back on the lead lap. If this race runs green, it gives you like a cushion for how far you can fall if you know you don't have the speed. So it's a strategy that could work out and could blow up in your face that some guys aren't going to like, but strategy nonetheless, and I really applaud the effort. I like it. I like the call.
Newbraw pitted 34 laps ago, now 35, and that was a 5.2 second stop, so it was just for fuel only. And Cody Kinsey, you remember he was involved in one of our earlier cautions of the race. He had a almost minute-long pit stop 37 laps ago, which included possible tires and the fuel, along with all the damage repair. He still has a pretty beat-up Chevrolet, but he has a good enough one to stay up front for now. Maggio and Forrester are on the freshest set of tires back in row number 2. We'll get another restart here, just shy of the halfway marker from Charlotte. That's officially lap 72, around 65. Could be either one of those, not good at math. But Michael Newbraw will be the race leader here on the oldest set of tires. How long does he survive? We saw this with Tony Kibbett, another Drinkin' Bros Racing driver last week, and it did not last long. Can Newbraw hang on to the spot? Green flag back in the air from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
And the inside had some trouble with Austin Reedy trying to get going. Ryan Pendicio as well, so it's going to spread out the front of the field. Ethan Fonseca immediately goes to the bottom. He's going to try and gain position here on Cody Kinsey. Gains one on Colin Forster in the progress, and now he's going to try and battle Steven Maggio as they both look to get around Michael
And
Newbrough.
sideways is Pendicio trying to save the race car. He'll collect Kyle Benson at the tail end of it, and several others are collected in the aftermath. Yellow flag immediately. Michael Newbrough will keep the race lead, but at the cost of some race cars.
That's your point leader in it.
That is. Kyle Benson, our points leader, might have got some of the worst of that as he just pounded right into the spinning Pendicio. There's nowhere to go for that 38 and all these other guys who were involved. Just goes for a spin on the backstretch.
We'll see if we can get another look at it with Pendicio. But his car is torn up there as he enters pit road. Kyle Benson was involved in that. And we'll see if we can get a better look here as we get the replay from Pendicio, who got loose off the back straightaway. And we'll see if it was a result of contact or whether there maybe might have been some help on board with the Massachusetts native of Pendicio.
He's on the inside of Mikey Neal, and I think they're 3 wide right here. Looks like he might have gotten tapped on the right rear there, Kenneth.
And then comes Kyle Benson while Trevor Haley barely escapes. He catches CJ Munier. And a vicious hit for both of those cars. We're going to look at the side-by-side action. On the left side, Pendicio. Right side, Kyle Benson in the 38.
Ooh.
That's some pretty heavy front-end damage for Benson, Kenneth. That's probably going to be terminal, if not definitely going to put him multiple laps down, because that's significant suspension and engine damage for him.
You could really see there on the Kyle Benson onboard too how much there was nothing to see. I mean, smoke everywhere. You don't know where the spinning race car is when there's that much smoke. So he didn't know whether to go to the bottom or to the top, and it just tears up that 38 car. He's gonna probably stick this out, try to get some repairs, but it's not looking good for the Dude Wipes car.
We'll see if we can get a moment to talk with the Williamsport, Pennsylvania native of Kyle Benson. Francisco, you've got him.
Well, Kyle Benson, it's me, Francisco, in the booth. You got it?
Yeah.
Well, we just saw the replays of that wreck. It doesn't look like there was much more you can do. Can you kind of talk us through your perspective?
Well, I saw a very, very red race car, and then I saw a very, very purple race car. I just really had nowhere to go. We're just gonna try to make laps. Hope some more stuff happens, but this thing's pretty much killed.
Well, we saw that you had a good comeback coming. Yeah, unfortunately, that looks like it's going to be short. That was some pretty big damage. So, give the opportunity to give the shout out to everybody to help make this fast race car for you possible today.
Yeah. I mean, just MRMS for just keep on keeping on. I know Reedy's up there. Hope he gets it done. Craig has a fast car too if he gets on the lead lap, and we're just gonna keep on keeping on, buddy.
Appreciate the time you take with us, Kyle, and good luck trying to salvage this race.
Yep, appreciate it, buddy.
Go Steelers.
Go Steelers.
Benson still keeping his head in the game despite all of the incidents there, and that big one there with Ryan Pendicio. Another look at the replay as Benson takes his Ford Mustang onto pit road, and Michael Newbrough catches the yellow at the right time, so he will remain in the race lead as we'll get ready for the 1 to green, hopefully next time by. Charlie brings us another question in the YouTube chat. He says, in relation to Thanksgiving football, how are your teams doing over halfway into the season? Keelan, let's start with you. I mean, you said go Steelers, so.
Well, yeah. Well, we're doing amazing on the NFL side of things. If you would have told me we're going to start 8-2 to start this season, I don't know what I would have done. But we're having a great season so far up in Pittsburgh. But I'll tell you what, Kenneth, I could go on a 30-minute rant about those LSU Tigers. They're just a bunch of bums over there. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I know you've told me about it pre-race a couple hours before we went live about how LSU, if they didn't suck, in your words, if they weren't bad this year, how life could have been, how society would have been. Francisco, what are your teams looking like at this part of the season?
Let's just say Colin Forster and I share the same kind of frustration.
All right. Well, those are 2 Jaguars fans right there.
I will say the Warriors look like they're doing good this season, so that's like a bright spot in all things.
That is good. That is good. As for me, I'm not a big football fan, But the Dolphins, they're all right, but they're not doing as good as they were expected to be this season with the addition of Odell Beckham Jr., Tyreek Hill on the squad again, Tua Tagovailoa, what he could have done, but was injured again this season. I mean, so much you could say about what the Dolphins could have been, but what they are right now is not the best football team. They did get a win recently, though. Their last win, I think, was against the Vegas Raiders, wasn't it? That they beat them on the field. As for college football, don't even get me started. FIU is on a terrible run right now. We're not the worst in Conference USA, but certainly not the best. Only well wishes to FIU. And McIntyre may get fired at the end of the season, depending on how it goes.
The University of Miami is 9-1.
They are, but I'm a Panther after all. I'm an FIU alum, so I gotta go with the good old Panthers. Even though I will support the Hurricanes in their endeavors for college football playoff. Maybe a Heisman Award with Cam Ward. You never know. As we'll get ready for the restart here, lap 65 of 134. With this caution changing the strategy, it puts the two BBR cars at the front of it all. Could be the face of this field after this restart if they do get by Michael Newbraw. Let's do it again. Green flag, lap 65, Newbraw in front.
And that's a great restart for him. Look at the gap he's able to put on Maggio and Fonseca to at least keep himself in the lead for turns 1 and 2 as we're on board with Fonseca.
Takes the outside, looking for Maggio and his possible attack, but Maggio's not going to give him one at the exit of 2. Moreno wants the inside of Colin Forster in the fight for third place, and here is where Maggio makes his move. Inside for the lead.
Newbraw, he did a good job on that restart there, but he wasn't going to be able to hold off these fresh tires for very long. Maggio takes that top spot back over. His BBR teammate, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, right following behind him. He goes into second. As Newbraw continues to flip through the field. Forster on the top, Hawkin on the bottom. And Hawkin trying to get back in that race lead as Forster clips the wall for 2.
Newbraw got stuck in the middle, 3 wide. Forster wanted the outside to get around, and now the Florida native is in a fight with the driver from up north. Hawkin on the inside for third. Maggio the race leader, and this is looking all over Francisco like shades of Chicagoland and what we saw a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the top 3 finishers in that race are right now top 3 in a different order, though, because Fonseca's up in second right now. And looking back, Cody Kinsey's in some 3 wide with Schaefer and Porter, who are next to each other on the racetrack.
As we were talking about with Hawkin and the Dropping the Hammer pre-race show, an average finish of 1.25 over the last 4. 3 of them race wins, 1 of them a second place finish to the man that's leading this race in Steven Maggio. And Hawkin was very busy over the weekend, went real life racing in Prodigy Racing 3 League that runs Radical SR1s, and they ran at NOLA Motorsports Park. Hawkin, a part of the Sucker Punch team that drafted him for that Prodigy 3 championship. He is 15th in points right now. So as we send our best of wishes to Hawkin on the real life racing side of things, and he goes back onto the sim and he's already putting up a cooking. He's in 3rd place, still trying to get around Moreno and Maggio, and they have all single filed out for most of the pack. Take a look at the latter portion of the top 10. You'll find some names we haven't seen in a minute. Keelan, Brian Dixon, one of the dual winners at Daytona earlier this campaign, is starting to make moves. Brandon Banks now on the edge of the top 10 behind him.
Yeah, 2 guys battling right here just inside the top 10. Dixon did get that dual win at Daytona to start the season. Talked about how much that meant to him as a guy who hadn't been able to put together the best of runs up here in the top 10 here at Charlotte. He's doing well. Back there where Brandon Banks, the seasoned sim racing veteran, is, he's got Jaden Porter right behind him, the guy who currently sits in the free pass position as his teammate is falling under fire by Brandon Hawkin as Ethan Fonseca Moreno trying to make a move for that 3rd position.
Hawkin getting by on the outside. On the right side of your screen is going to be the battle for the free pass as we're looking at those plethora of drivers, Francisco, that are trapped a lap down as a result of one of our most recent cautions. It's Jaden Porter that has it right now. If a yellow were to fly, he would get the lucky dog and he would get back on the lead lap, but he has to fight against AJ Green, who you're riding on board with right now.
And it goes to show how much pace they have because they're basically battling guys that are in position inside the top 10. So clearly both of them have pace, and now they're side by side.
So that is the free pass position, but AJ Green going to get stuck up by Jaden Porter there on the inside, and Curtis Kelly as they remain door-to-door. Porter wants more. He'll skip through the grass, and the AstroTurf, that gets him right alongside Brandon Banks for a second moment, but he just cannot make it work. And again, we'll keep an eye on that as it moves forward. The battle for the lead continues, and it may just come down to Steven Maggio and Brandon Hawken all over again. And for AJ Green, as he's fighting for that lucky dog spot, has been trapped for most of this race, but is one of the 3 North Carolina natives that are in this series. Hails from Clemens, a town about an hour or so away from the Speedway in Concord, North Carolina. Like we were talking about with Mikey Neal, about 5 minutes from this Speedway. The tertiary North Carolinian driver is Brandon Gillis, who's all the way back in the field. So really good stuff for all of them as they're trying to take on this hometown track tonight, Keelan.
We continue to see these guys racing for the lead. It's shades of Chicagoland all over again, Kenneth. The 2 guys who put on a thriller at that intermediate racetrack, they come back to the next intermediate doing the same thing. Maybe he's going to try to make a move here on the outside, get that clean air up in the middle.
Oh, he's going to get a huge run here.
Yeah, he's going to try to set up that pass that he did on Peel several times. See if he can get a run going into 3. He's going to take a look.
He's got his nose on the inside. Maggio to play defense. He's going to hold him back, and Hawkins stays there. This is shades of the Peel battle we saw earlier in the race, where Hawkins had to play smart. He backs out, but this time he switches over to the outside, and he wants the lead from the high side of the racetrack in turn 1.
And he crucially stayed on that right rear, but Maggio gasses it up in the center of the corner to get clear once again. So we're on for a good battle here. We'll see what Hawkins was able to learn in the battle at Chicagoland to try and better himself here now.
And he's doing the same thing he did in Illinois, going up high and then arcing down low like he did with Lawson Peel to get the run off the corner. And in Chicagoland, I mean, you could play with 4th gear a little bit, but not as much as you can here at Charlotte. You got to roll this car up. And one feature about Charlotte, Keelan, is that it feels much more tightened up than another mile and a half that we'll see on the schedule. Las Vegas feels much more wide open. So does Chicagoland. And even a bit, so does Homestead Miami Speedway. But Charlotte, even though it is the typical cookie cutter mile and a half circuit in a quad oval configuration, it feels narrow. It feels really tight to drive around, and you've really got to roll this car up. So these guys are using 4th gear as much as they can as we'll look on board with Hawkins.
And I think it being such a narrow racetrack really plays into the fact that the 2 ends of the racetrack are so different. You have such a different entry into turn 3 at Charlotte than you do at a turn 3 at a Chicago or a Las Vegas, especially with that banking and how steep it gets so early in the corner. It's just a really abrasive corner on your tires, and that turn 4 wall sneaks up on you a lot quicker than you think it does. And these guys really having to put their best into it this evening, as Maggio using that advantage of the next gen and the rear diffuser, putting some dirty air on Hawkins' nose, and it's helping him defend that lead pretty well right now.
And with that, it's allowed Ethan Fonseca Moreno to catch up. Hawkins woed up a bit using the outside in turn 4. So Francisco, a second breath of life for the Californian right behind in 3rd.
He's just hanging in there, trying to see if he can bite his time. The good thing for him compared to Chicagoland is that he's had a better starting position to these guys at the start of the run. Didn't have to pass cars, so he's able to sit there in 3rd and keep them within arm's reach if he get a long enough run.
Remember, the battle for the lucky dog spot continues. That's 18th place, and it's where Jaden Porter sits ahead of AJ Green by less than a 1/10 of a second. They are right on each other. Here comes Green to the inside. Remember, if a caution comes out, the driver in front of another will get the lucky dog spot. Green will try, but Porter holds on to it. Keelan, and while we're watching the battle for the lead, things all the way back here are getting spiffy.
Yeah, this battle for the free pass is just as good as the battle for the race lead, as it matters so much. When everybody got trapped a lap down, there's only possibly going to be so many opportunities to get that lap back, and they have been battling hard back here between the 28 and 48, as now Brandon Hawkins looks like he may have a chance. He got really close there. Going to try that crossover here on the straightaway maybe. He's not quite as aggressive as Lawson Peel was earlier. Peel, he was going in the grass to make these passes. Haven't seen that quite from the 98, though. I wonder, though, as the race progresses, if we do see that aggression out of the 98 that we haven't seen yet this evening.
Well, it seems, Francisco, that Brandon Hawkins is a vibe kind of guy. He sees what the driver does around him. and he seems to match the energy quite well. In the aggressive fight for the lead with Lawson Peel, he was executing the same moves that Peel was doing on him, almost as a, you want to go with that fight? I'll put it to you. We'll do the same fighting together for the race lead. And here with Maggio, though, who seems to run a little more methodical, Hawken uses that approach. He doesn't use the aggressive moves that he employed against Lawson Peel. He's a bit more planning and a bit more tactful in what he does for second right behind.
I guess what you're trying to say is race the way you get raced.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, we see a lot of guys employ that strategy on several people. And oh, Hawken's going to get tight. He lifts out of the throttle off of turn 4. Was not a good exit for the corner. You see it's going to cost him some time there. And that allows Ethan to close the gap a little bit, trying to see if he can put a challenge up.
So Moreno will try again on Hawken. It seems that every time Brandon gets knocked back, he starts to slowly work his way forward. So keep an eye on the Canadian as he continues to stay put in second place, now about a half second back of the race leader in Steven Maggio. How about the fight for P5 going on? Scott Healy in the 64, Austin Reedy right behind. And as Kyle mentioned earlier in the show when we talked about the crash, Reedy is on a good run right now, looking for his third straight top 10 affair at a 1.5 mile track, with Las Vegas and Chicagoland treating him quite well. Scott Healy fighting for second place in the waning laps there at New Hampshire. And did get it there side by side now, and it appears Moreno has caught Brandon Hawken and has gotten by Francisco, so that's good news for BBR. They're able to tally back, hold off the pressure from third on back, and control the tempo of the field.
Absolutely. Ethan has been biding his time on this long run. He's ran good here historically. Let's see what he has in store for Steven Maggio, as Hawken, maybe with those crossover attempts, might have hurt his tires because now Forrester's putting a pressure on him.
Riding on board with Forrester on the right side of your screen, leader Maggio on the left side. We've got note that there are lap traffic cars ahead. Cody Kinsey, who stayed out on one of the recent yellows, is all the way back there. His Chevrolet maybe puts another lap down. He was already one behind, a 28th, and several other cars that are also up the road. So there is something to be said about what Maggio can do. And remember, back in season 4 of this very race, it was in the playoffs. Craig Lounslager and Jaden Porter were going for the race lead. The lapped car that played a factor was Cody Kinsey, Keelan. So, you know, maybe it's not for the race win right now, but, you know, one lapped car, one slower machine can hold the leader up.
Could be a little subtle foreshadowing you're doing there, Kenneth. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball in my hand, so I'll try my best to predict the future right now. But they are catching the lap cars. Ryan Pandicio is the next one in line. And after the hellacious hit that Pandicio suffered on the back straightaway, he's 3 laps down back in 29th place. And we'd imagine that they may also catch up to Daniel Moore, the ailing Chevrolet, who is 5 laps down in 30th. So we'll keep an eye on that, as 31 laps in the books on this run. Everyone has started to separate quite a bit. How about Moreno trying the high side here? This was something that we noted back in Season 5's edition of this race, Francisco, between Porter and Peel. The differentiation of lines and what you can do to grab a bit of that clean air, especially when lap traffic comes into the case. Moreno used it to crunch up the gap against his teammate Maggio. And he may replicate it here back in 1 and 2.
We saw him use that to get second from Brandon Hawken in the first place, and there's Pandicio who's going to get in the way here. He's going to be on the high side in 1 and 2, so Moreno has to go to a different line. There you see them both negotiating this, and Moreno's going to catch him off the corner here. And they still have Cody Kinsey in the front, but Moreno's been experimenting with that high side. You see they both now pulled away from Brandon Hawken. Expect the 57 to keep experimenting to try and see if we can close the gap up to Maggio before pit stops, which could be soon enough because that pit window is open between now and the end of the race.
And if you make a pit stop from now, you should be able to be okay until the end of this race. We've now got 44 laps to go, so this is directly in the pit window. You got to give yourself enough time, if you will, to cycle out and get ready to gain some spots at the end of the race. We're looking right there with the pre-race interviewee, Mikey Neal, who steps into the top 6. We mentioned our last 1.5 mile race at Chicagoland, where Neal finished in that exact spot after starting 14th. Well, he's starting to pick up the pace. Scott Healy and Kip Easley watching on behind him. Oh, and
Healy in trouble.
Into the wall.
No caution.
But he's slowing down. The field is going by, and that's heavy totaling damage for Healy, and he'll get out of the way. So pivotally, a lack of a caution, maybe so. We'll keep an eye as Healy stops in the grass. Yellow flag does not fly, and a close call for Healy there.
Oh, look, and there's going to be Ethan getting a run on Maggio.
Here comes Ethan. Does he use the high side? Yes. Battle for the lead between the teammates into turn 1.
And Cody Kinsey's in the way.
The slap traffic's definitely going to play a factor here, Francisco. We
Oh,
saw
what's this?
Oh, and there he goes on the outside. And new leader, Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
What a move. Moreno takes control of the race from Charlotte, and he is pulling away already. By use of the high side lane, Moreno, the new lead change with 42 laps to go.
An absolute power move to get by. That Maggio was using the outside. We saw him try that a couple laps ago, and it worked to perfection. Forrester and Austin Reedy have gotten by Brandon Hawkins, who continues to fall back. They have a gap back to Mikey Neal. So, and expect pit stops here soon. We were talking about Scott Healy there, but we got interrupted with the battle for the lead. Healy had significant right front damage from that contact and obviously was not going to be able to drive it back to pit road. That's why he parked it down and towed to the pit lane. So unfortunate for the 64 Healy. We got a top 5 run going, but he was able to get out of the way. But I'll tell you what, Maggio's not done with. Yeah, he's going to try and challenge for this lead once again.
Well, Moreno, in his attempt to get by the lap car, Cody Kinsey, it really hasn't been fun. Kinsey has held him up, and it's allowed Maggio to stay back in the fight. You were looking at the Charlie Byer photography onboard camera. This could be the pivotal move past the lap car, and it is not. Moreno cannot get by, and Maggio is smiling ear to ear, wondering, this is my second chance for the race lead.
Oh, he's going to get it here.
Kinsey pulling out his inner Ryan Newman right there, being a roadblock to these leaders. He's not going to give it to him easily, as he's continuing to fight on the outside, and there is maybe no driver more frustrated in virtual Charlotte right now than Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
Maggio's within a car length in turn 3, and Moreno washes up in the middle of 3 and 4. That's the place that Keelan noted is super treacherous. You can get really tight off the corner, and that right front will start squealing for a bit of grip. Still yet to get by Kinsey, who is giving it his all to stay ahead of the race leaders. And now it's up to Maggio to make this move. And where does he go, Francisco? That's the question, unless they come down for pit stops.
I was going to say, if I'm Ethan, I would actually bring it down pit road. We were able to make it to the end of the race on the fuel, and you're struggling to get by this lap traffic. It's costing you time. Bring it down the pit lane.
Well, he's not coming in yet. Neither does Maggio. And looking back at the rest of the top 5, it's Forrester, Reedy, and Brandon Hawkins. Either of them yet to come down pit road. And so they're waiting this one out until it starts to get to the crunch down time. But I mean, to look at how this race has gone down, obviously the yellow coming out in our first round of green flag stops is the reasonable fear for most of the field if they elect to come down this time. But you also have to give yourself a bit more of time to cycle out as the field progresses, because those a lap down may try to stay out because they've got the fuel and the tires possibly to have a hopeful run and get the race win. So you got to be really careful about where you come down pit road and what lap you do as Maggio continues the fight on Moreno. He is right on the back bumper.
And they both are still behind Cody Kinsey, so it's just going to struggle for both of these guys to get by Cody Kinsey, but they haven't exactly been getting caught by Forrester and Austin Reedy, so I guess that's a good thing for both of them, but certainly wishing they would not have that 97, so they could put an even bigger gap on the competition.
The only driver faster than your top 2 right now, it's Mikey Neal, who sits P6. His last lap was a 31 flat, and now as he sits a 31.1, now the leaders switch back to being faster. Brandon Hawkins was also set a 31 flat and was close to the race leaders, so was Austin Reedy. But again, the fluctuation of time, not enough to make inroads on your top 2 who continue to fight tooth and nail for this spot. Moreno hungry for his first win since the finale last season at Homestead, Miami. And Maggio, who told us a couple of weeks ago that he's in it for the wins no matter what, and he doesn't care about anything else, is searching for his first win over the last 3 or so races.
I think Moreno tried to experiment there, running higher to get a same run as Kinsey instead of running the bottom and just ending up in this yo-yo situation. It was interesting, but I don't think that's going to work. And oh, Maggio's going to bring it to the pit lane. He's going to try the undercut.
Well, Maggio slows down. He's in from second, this time at lap 100. The field will follow by And Colin Forster will take over second, with Hawken and Austin Reedy in the foreground as well, third and fourth place on the racetrack. Maggio seems to be the solo car coming in. Keelan, is that a surprise to you to see him being the only driver in this time?
Well, as long as he doesn't miss his pit box here, we should be good. He has the first pit box. Best seat in the house. He seems all right, but Moreno, his hand is forced right here because Maggio is right on his back bumper. He has to come down pit road as Colin Forster will take over the race lead in that 99 car. I'm not sure if it was a surprise or not, Kenneth, but he definitely forced the hand of everybody else to come down pit road here. As now Maggio on this outlap, he's going to be trying to lay down a heater to make sure Moreno can't close up to him. You see the 71 and Curtis Kelly also on pit road. Maggio going through 3 and 4. We will see where he cycles out in comparison to Ethan Fonseca Moreno. The 51 on the right and the 57 on the left. We'll see how this all cycles out.
Maggio looking to take the spot in turn 1. And Moreno still up through the gears, so Maggio may be able to get by. This is near turn 2 where it's all coming down.
Well, it's going to be tight.
They're going to be all on top of each other.
So here's Maggio right behind Jaden Porter on the outside. That's for the net race lead.
And Moreno keeps it.
We're right back where we were before the stops.
And there's a lap car in the middle. That's Brandon Banks, who actually will be a part of the position here for P3. He's one of those guys who had stayed out along with Austin Reedy, who's up front. Mikey Neal back in second place. We also noted that Colin Forster, Brandon Hawken, they visited pit road on the same lap, so they are here trying to merge back through the field. And again, this is where I mentioned those lapped cars are going to try and get the heave out. Lawson Peel is one of them, but it does not go well for him. He stays a lap down in 11th place. And Francisco, we only have 6 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, 6 cars have not yet brought it down pit road. It's including your race leader, Austin Reedy. Second place runner, Mikey Neal. Brandon Banks now brings it down to the pit lane. Tony Kivett moves up into 3rd. Tyler Murray's up to 4th. And Eric Stewart, the last running car, not to bring it down the pit lane. He'll now move up into 5th past Brandon Banks. And this will bring Ethan up to the 6th spot. He is 1 lap down behind Austin Reedy, who's going to actually bring it to the pit lane now. So luckily for your top 2, they're now going to be unlapped, so they don't have to worry about being lapped.
And as Brandon Banks comes out, he was one of the solo cars in. Mikey Neal will follow. And it's all on the run between Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Steven Maggio. There's a look on the left side at what this battle looks like. The same as it did right before green flag stops with 28 laps to go. And this is panning out the same way, Keelan, it did back in Season 5, a strategy fight between 2 of the best drivers in the series. It was Porter and Peel for a while. Then Peel got into an incident on the back straightaway with his teammate, Eric Schaefer. But this time it's 2 teammates at BBR, Moreno and Maggio. Now they're side by side for a moment. Maggio pitches to the inside.
Side by side down the back stretch. Like it was last season and like it was at Chicago between Maggio and Hawken. This time a new challenger, last year's champion, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's going to overtake him and take the net P1 position here with just under 30 laps to go. Maggio takes over the position.
But Francisco, is that a ploy for Moreno to save the tires early in the run? Because we still got a long way to go.
That's what he did in the last run. It wouldn't surprise me if he does the same thing. We saw him run down Hawken and Maggio, who proved to be some of the best cars. So we'll just have to see if that's exactly the same case. And the good thing for both of these guys, Kenneth, is that they're well clear of the rest of the pack. You look back at Brandon Hawken, the next car who has pitted, who's up in the 7th position currently, moving past the cars that have not pitted, which include Craig Lautenschlager and Jaden Porter, who tried to catch a caution on the lead lap. Brandon Hawken 6-7 seconds behind these guys. So Maggio and Fonseca not only had a great pit stop, they pitted at the right time, and now they have a huge gap on anybody else.
Got a lot of distance. The last thing they need is a yellow flag. There's Tony Kivett on pit road, Nicholas Baumann, Craig Lautenschlager, Jaden Porter are following suit, so that leaves only 2 cars that have yet to pit. 46-lap-old stint Tyler Murray and 52-lap stinted Eric Stewart, who joins us for one of the first times this season. Hasn't showed up that much in Season 7, but he's back in action driving the number 82 machine. There's Kivett back on the track. Maggio right now has the net race lead by 3 car lengths with Ethan Fonseca Moreno behind. And you can make the argument, Keelan, that Maggio did have to fight Brandon Hawken for a while, so that did let Moreno get the upper hand in the run because Maggio was using his tires fighting some cars. But as we learned in the run before green flag pit stops, you can easily do that with a lap machine. You get one driver like Cody Kinsey who stays on the outside and puts you behind, and Maggio could easily be in the same spot, letting Moreno save his tires back in second.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I don't think Moreno would roll over and leave that position because of how hard we saw it was to pass. Once we get some laps under each other, you can use these next gens, create some dirty air, make it hard for the car behind you to pass. I say Maggio is probably in the best position right now, and if I'm Moreno, I don't want to be back there in the second position waiting on a lap car as the leader is out of gas.
He's out of fuel on the back straightaway, trying to see if he can coast it back to the pit lane. Just went one lap too many on this particular run. This is lap number 54, so Eric Stewart loses the lead on the back straightaway to your current top two, and he's going to bring it down the pit lane.
And that leaves these drivers right here, Maggio and Moreno, in the fight for the top spot. There's lap car CJ Munier in the way. He'll run the high side. That could hold up Moreno. And over the last several laps, Maggio has been at least a tenth or so faster. Moreno did start to apply the pressure, setting a 29.99, while Maggio set in a 30 flat. So it's starting to go back and forth between those two. However, it is getting close, and there is a go button if you're Moreno. Not sure if it's right now with 22 laps to go. They got by Eric Stewart, who had fallen out of fuel there in 3 and 4, let the leaders by on the apron, so no more talk of strategy. Everyone is good till the end on fuel. The biggest question is, number 1, Keelan Belsha, do we get a yellow? And number 2, what is the tire situation looking like?
I don't think either of these two leaders want to see a yellow. They want to race this out mano y mano to the checkered flag, because we've had enough overtime restarts this season. These two just want to race it out, and that is what they're hoping for. But these tires, I've said it all night, that right front is going to get burnt up, and these cars are going to plow off the exits of these corners as the race goes on. And all it takes from one of these top two, there it is, Kenneth. There it is.
There is the yellow flag.
Mikey Neal on the front straightaways around.
A tough break for Neal, who was at one point in the top 10 under green. Now brings us our latest yellow with 20 laps to go.
That goes an incident on cold tires, gets loose in front of Austin Reedy. Reedy has nowhere to go, gets into him just slightly, and that's what sends the 88 spinning back to the outside of the racetrack.
I believe that gives Tyler Murray the free pass as well. He was right behind those leaders.
So we're going to look at it with Neal off turn 4. Here he is right in front of Austin Reedy. Oh boy, that is close between those two. Reedy having to script through the AstroTurf, and while Neal doesn't suffer that much damage to either end of his Camaro, still enough. Dead sideways in the middle of the pack. Oh boy, trying to merge back with the traffic. That was Lawson Peel there, who was side by side in the quad oval. And this is a pivotal yellow, Francisco, because there's a conversation about fresh tires. The run has been long enough for the top two. They are coming in this time.
And the good thing for that top two is that they have enough of a gap to safely get onto pit road without having any worries of speeding or losing positions on the stop itself if they execute properly. But I will say Colin Forrester has stayed out. He's at least the current one I see that has stayed out. Curtis Kelly in the pit lane. So I'm just looking here trying to see exactly who's everybody that stayed out. That's on the lead lap, that is. And right now, the only one that has done so is Colin Forrester.
So he is letting this one out for what it is, hoping that maybe some more yellows follow suit. It's going to be a 13-lap difference between Forrester here in the race lead and Moreno, who just won the race off pit road against Maggio. And they're going to let all the lap cars by. They're going to try to figure out their proper position. But this is crunch time, inside 20 to go, and a heap of cars on the fresh rubber. That does include Brandon Hawken, so we do not see the last of Hawken here, Keelan Belsha, because we know they're going to get by Colin Forrester, but we know that Hawken has been fast, specifically on the shorter end of the run.
He sure has, and that's what I was thinking when this yellow came out. That's why these top two did not want that yellow, because that puts Brandon Hawken right back in this race as we get a look at the race off of pit road and how close it was. Moreno, by the skin of his teeth, is going to get that position, which will put him in P number 2, and he won't have any cars on old tires in front of him that he's going to have to race besides Colin Forster. But directly in front of him on his restart, nobody.
Forster leads this race, inside 20 to go. Let's get another word with our KBRN in-race reporter, Craig Lautenslager, who sits back in 17th right now. Craig, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
All right, Craig. Well, we've seen a lot tonight. I mean, obviously the opening stretch of yellows. We had our longest green flag run of the race. Now the yellow inside 20 to go. You're in the fight for the lucky dog spot right now. Where do you see your fate coming by in the next 18 laps?
I guess try to get round for the lucky dog spot, but I don't know. It's been unfortunate. We have a top 3 car, and one little caution has and a few selfish drivers too have messed everything up.
Well, we have seen a ton of the lapped car situations, and specifically that fight for the free pass. In your case here, are you expecting any more yellows from here on to the end that could give you a better shot at that lucky dog?
Might need a couple of them, but we'll see what happens.
Well, Craig, we appreciate the time. I know it's tough luck right now, but still a chance to get back in the fight. Best of luck at the next green flag restart.
Thanks.
Craig Lautenslager locked in, as always, to try to get a win here in this series like he did back in Season 4 at this very speedway. But again, he's in that fight for the free pass with Lawson Peel and Jaden Porter ahead. Porter is the lucky dog candidate right now if another yellow were to fly. But him and Peel have been going at it for a lot of this race. Peel is one of the faster cars on the racetrack, just trapped in his situation. So, Francisco, I mean, there is a bit of hope considering this caution could bring another flurry of yellows, and we might see some more drivers getting the free pass naturally. But it's all down to the situation itself. But as Keelan said earlier, expect the unexpected in this series.
Yeah, this could easily spawn a couple more cautions in it between now and the checkered flag. We under 20 laps to go. It's going to be 16 when we take the green, to be exact, of the scheduled distance. We've seen this happen many times this season where you get this caution after a run and it breeds some more yellows, but I mean, this racetrack and the way this race has ended up progressing afterwards, you could see potentially a run to the finish here.
And for Moreno, lots of nerves. Hasn't been in this position in a little while. Has been close to it. Chicagoland was the closest he's gotten to a solid race win in this series on a 9-race winless streak after he won the finale at Homestead at Miami Speedway. And he's got to fight against Colin Forster, who's got the oldest tires in the field. The hope for Moreno is that he can get by Forster while the Florida native on the inside holds up Maggio. But that will open the door for Brandon Hawken, who's been really strong over this race, and now on a fresh set of Goodyear Eagles, has another life in him. 16 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line. It's the SpongeBob machine trying to have some fun at the front, with Moreno trying to spoil the party. To the restart zone for what could be the final time tonight from Charlotte. Forrester gets going. Green flag back in the air.
Moreno gets a good enough launch to stay to his right rear. He's going to try and hang through their 1 and 2, expect the 99 to get clear. But right here, you expect those tires to maybe get a good enough punch in them. He doesn't get to the outside of 99. Maggio stays on the bottom, but here comes Hawken as, cars go sliding to the inside and forth for Moreno.
That was Brian Dixon sideways on the backstretch. We'll keep an eye if that triggers a yellow flag, and now it does. Caution flag out, and Dark Horse Motorsports seem to be involved. That's Bauman and Escamilla hard into the outside wall.
Two guys who have had a good run today.
Jaden Porter just gets in front of Lawson Peel for that free pass position.
So while the chaos began with Brian Dixon at the front of the field, or rather at the mid portion of the field, it's Nicholas Bauman and Juan Escamilla that find themselves in the biggest set of trouble. There were 3 wide off turn 2. That's the pass for the lucky dog between Peel and Porter. Dixon is going to merge up, and it seems that Timothy Cook just got turned there by Eric Stewart. And that's what gets Bauman in the outside wall and Escamilla with nowhere to go. Look on board from Bauman.
Oh man, was ahead of the whole thing and still gets a piece of it. That's a terrible feeling.
And Galen, you can easily see where this one starts with Timothy Cook. I mean, the fast approaching Eric Stewart off turn 2. And Timothy Cook is just staying where he's at. Nothing he can do to react in time, as it appears a lot of them were checking up for what happened with Dixon. But that's the contact there on the back straightaway. Cook spinning around, and the two Dark Horse Motorsports teammates who had a good view at the start of this race, now in peril at the back of the field.
Yeah, that's definitely a chain reaction issue there. Everybody reacted to Dixon as how about that 99 car, Kenneth? Lap number 1, we didn't even get to the start-finish line. He qualified on the front row. He ended up head-on into the fence before we even got to the initial green flag of this race. And that car has been patched up. He is in an opportunity now with old tires, of course, but we saw it earlier. Cody Kinsey's a lap car on older tires and and not as much speed as the top 2 drivers who are right behind Forster. He was able to hold him off using this track's narrow edge to his advantage. Forster, he's going to have an opportunity to do that here with a car that was formerly beat up today and a guy who is on a long winless streak, didn't win at all in Season 6. He'll be looking to get back into victory lane here at Charlotte.
I mean, you're looking at 2 different drivers in 2 different scenarios, right? Just like we did at Chicagoland with Hawken being the firepower driver, Maggio searching for another trip to victory lane. But here we have 2 winless drivers this season who have yet to find a win in a little while, specifically with Forrester there, who had a terrible Season 6 in the Xfinity Series car. And then you've got some drivers behind that could make some waves. I mean, Curtis Kelly on a super long winless streak that continues today. Austin Reedy, who hasn't won a race since Season 5 at Atlanta. Kip Easley in his rookie campaign hasn't won a race either. And so you can always count it down to what can happen in these final laps, but you've got a lot of strong drivers at the front. So there can be the possibility that Moreno, Maggio, and Hawken pull away from the field and set a tone of their own. And Francisco, as we've seen in previous history here at Charlotte, it always comes down to the last lap.
It's never over till it's over, and Craig Loudslacker was willing to prove that here to make the championship round against Jaden Porter, beating and banging right to the line. 0.06 of a second is what separated those two at the line. Second closest finish in four-wide history to date, but Porter makes up for it a season after that, gets the win, gets into the championship 5, which would end up powering him into the championship that he would have in that season. And you go back to Season 6, just a season ago. In the regular season, it was TJ Burth capturing his second win of the season, holding off runs from Austin Reedy and Eric Schaefer to capture that victory on that particular evening.
3 very different races. The last 2 came down to a leader pulling away at the white flag. And while Porter's was majority under green, TJ Burst had to fight through overtime just to get his race win. And that, in turn, was his second of Season 6, where he had a dominant start to the campaign and just fell apart as he could not make a lot of the races in the season. And we are sure to get the 1 to green signal from the iRacing official pace car this time, which will marker down our restart for 11 laps to go. And so Colin Forrester will take control of the race lead on what is now, give or take, a $20 bill on tires. Ethan Fonseca Moreno and everyone else on the freshies on the outside and around them, and they could not make a move on Forrester on that restart, even though it didn't last long before that caution flag. Keelan, are you expecting more yellows from here on out?
I'm not sure, Kenneth, but the theme has been when we get these yellows after a long run, they typically seem to breed themselves. So I'd say it's more likely than it's not that we'll see another one before this thing's over.
And if you're Steven Maggio, you're eyeing down a 3rd win this season, which would tie Brandon Hawken. But you've got to get by the 2 in front. A hungry teammate in Moreno and a Colin Forrester that can easily put himself in any place to win a race with these next-gen cars. It all comes down to this, plus more if we do find ourselves with another yellow here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It'll be 11 laps to go at the stripe, and it's Forrester to give us the command. Moreno on the outside, Maggio and Hawken back in row 2, Curtis Kelly, Austin Reedy back to position number 6. Is this it from Charlotte Motor Speedway? Colin Forster takes the field back to the green flag in the chase back to turn 1, and it's a solid jump by Moreno on the outside. He may pull even with Forster in the run to the first corner while Maggio searches for the inside.
It was a better launch for Forster this time compared to the previous restart, and Maggio clearly had an idea of where he was going, and Maggio's actually going to get loose to give Moreno that spot, and Curtis Kelly gets taken 3 wide.
Michael Newbraw at the back gets sideways, but he settles that down. We're going to stay green. Moreno tries to shut the door on Maggio, but it's no case, and Brandon Hawkin, the tertiary car in the white and green Chevrolet in the background. They're door-to-door for second. 10 laps to go, and Colin Forster is in the lead.
And this is what Forster wants to see. He wants to see those 2 guys behind him side by side. They're only slowing each other up, and it's going to allow that 99 to pull away a little bit. But now Maggio gets clear for that second position. He's going to set his eyes on that 99 right there.
Moreno holds back and says, Maggio, you lead the way, but they will be door-to-door again in 3 and 4. And how long will it take until the tire difference beats Forster in the game? Couple drivers tap the outside wall and up the gear. Maggio is catching up in turn 1, and he's almost there. Here he goes. He'll deal the bumper.
Here comes Moreno.
Moreno on the high side can get the run. We're 3 wide for the race lead, and Moreno has the top spot on the back straightaway.
What a move.
That was defense by Maggio right there, trying to defend the position, but he got tapped, and it allowed Moreno to get around on the outside in a 3-wide move. Just spectacular stuff, but Maggio is not going to let his teammate get too far out in front. These two have been dueling for the last half of this race. Would you expect anything different with less than 10 to go?
Maggio and Moreno, game on with 8 laps to go. Brandon Hawkin is in the fight with Austin Reedy. That's going to be settled for 3rd as Hawkin will beat the 34 car on the outside lane while Maggio preys on Moreno up front. Again, Moreno hasn't won a race since the season finale at Homestead, but Maggio wants a win no matter what. 7 laps to go at the stripe.
And how do these guys race each other here? Their teammates, even though they're not on the official team, and Maggio's to the inside. He's going to side draft him.
And he'll be there, but Brandon Hawkin is there to help with Moreno on the outside. Maggio sticks his nose underneath in 3 and 4, and it's even off turn 4 to 6 laps to go.
Who does Hawkin help?
And here comes Austin Reedy in the 34 too. It's going to be a 4-horse race here. Down into turn number 1. They stay side by side, deadlocked even. Down the back stretch, nobody with an edge.
It's a quartet off turn 2. Austin Reedy is still underneath for 3rd, and Maggio continues the press on Ethan Fonseca Moreno. It'll be 5 laps to go at the stripe, and Brandon Hawkin is there. He'll cut down low off turn 4, potentially looking for the lead.
And he's going to help Maggio on the front straightaway here. He could get clear into turn 1, and he does.
Maggio in front, Hawkin right behind. But it's not over yet. BBR can hold back the Canadian for a little longer. And off turn 2, Hawkins settles by. It's single file, Maggio up front with 4.5 laps to go.
Now Moreno, he has been running that top this evening more than anybody else up front. We'll see if he can build a run up top and try to get a run on Maggio down one of these straightaways. As we look from both cars, Charlie Byer Photography on board cameras with 4 laps to go.
Maggio
he backed up his entry.
Moreno on the right side. And Moreno did a move on Maggio earlier in this race. Let the Aris car control the tempo until it was all to the late run and took over the race lead forcefully. Now with 3 laps to go, does Moreno have anything left in the tank for Maggio?
He won't go down without a fight. You can definitely expect that out of the 57. He's going to go for it at all costs. Yes, what a run. He's going to go to the top. We'll see what he does.
This is what he did last time when he got by Maggio during the green flag run. That does open the door, though, for Brandon Hawkin, who settles nicely on the inside in the search for 2nd place. Maggio continues shifting down to 4th to get all the throttle in the middle of the corner. It's 2 laps to go, this time by at the stripe, and Moreno is looking at dwindling chances for his first career win since Homestead.
And Maggio clipped the grass.
He gets just close enough going into the corners, but he isn't able to get close enough to make the move, as now Hawkin gets side by side with Moreno. That's going to be a detriment to both of those guys on a hunt to get to Maggio. A lap and a half to go through 3 and 4. They stay side by side. It's going to be 1 lap to go for Maggio.
That may seal the deal. The final nail in the coffin for Moreno's chance to break his winless streak. They're banging doors on the quad oval, and the white flag waves for Steven Maggio, who had to survive a charging Brandon Hawken at Chicagoland several weeks ago, and then found himself nose first into the outside wall in turns 1 and 2. And this time in the return to a 1.5-mile track, it's back to victory lane. Hawken takes second, but it's not enough. Steven Maggio, the 3rd win of the season, comes from Charlotte.
An incredible battle from Steven Maggio to get by Ethan Fonseca, who ended up falling to 5th there on the final lap, and Forrester comes through there, but Maggio, Kenneth, ties Brandon Hawken with 3 wins, and Forrester's not happy.
Yeah, he's showing some displeasure here from that bump and run in turns 1 and 2. Mikey Neal spins around back there, but I don't think Forrester's going to do anything here. He's just showing his displeasure, but for Maggio, I don't think he cares because it worked out. He's in Paul's setup shop victory lane for the 3rd time, getting some love from Brandon Banks in the 5 machine, Lawson Peel in the 12, acknowledging that talent in the 51, and how good of a season it's been for him. Teammate Jaden Porter getting up there with him too.
You know, there was the question of whether Maggio, as a rookie, could impress anymore. Well, he just showed the field that he can do that and a whole lot more. Steven Maggio, for the 3rd time this season, visits Paul's setup shop victory lane, and it's his 2nd win at a 1.5-mile track. His 1st at Chicagoland, beating Brandon Hawken, and it's the same 1-2 finish tonight in Concord, North Carolina. The last 4 races of the season won by Hawken or Maggio and no one else.
Those two are putting their mark on this series, Kenneth. If you wanted your 2 championship favorites, I think we may have found them.
We'll see if we can get a look at what happened there off turn 4 in that final lap. It was Colin Forrester.
This was
way before, actually. Forrester in the race lead, and this is how Maggio steals the lead. He deals the bumper to Forrester, Keelan Boscia. Moreno says, I've got the high side in clean air, and they split the Florida native 3 wide.
My gosh. That's the move that Forrester is obviously not happy about, but, I mean, when you're throwing a block like that, you have to do what you have to do right there. He makes the move there, and Maggio eventually, a few laps later, finds his way around Moreno and puts himself in Paul's setup shop victory lane as we get a look at your unofficial results.
And by 0.3 of a second, it's Steven Maggio, winner for the 3rd time this season. Brandon Hawken has to settle for another 2nd place outing here behind the race winner. Curtis Kelly with his best finish of the season in 3rd. Austin Reedy continues his top 10 streak at the intermediate tracks. He finishes 4th, while Ethan Fonseca Moreno gave his last gasp there in the final laps, but fell back to 5th at the checkered flag. Mikey Neal, who we talked to on our pre-race show, sponsored by Dropping the Hammer, he finishes in P6. Well, Colin Forrester, who stayed out on the old tires, it was a worthy call. He finishes in the top 10, but it is not enough to stay up front for the W. Kip Easley returns to the series. The rookie driver finishes 8th, while Eric Schaefer is 9th, and Brandon Banks Francisco Bacalhau closes out the top 10 from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Tyler Murray ends up recovering from being a lap down and finishes in the 11th spot. Tony Kivitt in the 12th spot. Brian Dixon ran well all day to finish 13th. Porter got the free pass late there to finish in the 14th spot. Michael Newbrow finished 15th. Lawson Peel, after those early pit stop troubles under Green, will finish in the 16th spot. First car 1 lap down, never was able to get back on the lead lap after that. Craig Lautenschlager, our in-race supporter, will finish in the 17th spot. AJ Green will finish in 18th, Christopher Bishop will finish in 19th, and CJ Munier rounds out the top 20.
21st for Cody Kinsey, who was involved in a couple incidents and got involved in that battle during the right before the pit cycle between our 2 leaders. Juan Escamilla, who ran up front early, finishes in 22nd. Eric Stewart in his first start of the season in 23rd. Nicholas Bauman, another guy who was up in the top 5 early, finishes in 24th. Timothy Cook back in 25th. Trevor Haley, another guy who we saw running up front pretty early in this run, finishes in 26th. Ryan Pandiccio back in 27th after going for a spin earlier. Daniel Morse is back there in 28th. Scott Healy can't keep the momentum up from New Hampshire. He finishes in 29th after his incident. Dusty Applin, the rookie, finishes back in the 30th position, 50 laps down. Kyle Benson, who got involved in that Pandiccio yellow, in 31st. Brandon Gillis in 32nd. Craig Rowe, Craig Parks, and Kevin D'Elia round out the remainder of this field.
That's your entire field from Charlotte. That'll be a big dagger to Kyle Benson, who may, in fact, lose the points lead after this race. Right after taking it at New Hampshire, he loses it here tonight at Charlotte. What a finish it was over 134 laps. Steven Maggio survives all to get his third win this season. We'll take a short break, and on the other side, we've got post-race coverage. We'll talk with the top 3 drivers in this race and get our whole thoughts about what just happened here in NASCAR's birthplace and the home for racing. We'll take a moment and step aside. You're watching the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Charlotte Motor Speedway on the KBueno Racing Network.
My name is Francisco Bacallao, driver of the number 30 Celsius Toyota. I have a lot of things to balance between work, being a student pilot, and of course, having iRacing to do on the side. How do I manage all that? Celsius.
Celsius is the key to getting these things done for me. Whether it's at work, at home, while I'm driving, whatever. Whichever flavor you want, whichever one appeals to you best, that's the one that gets it done.
So if you want a good option to drink, choose Celsius.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. 134 laps of unbelievable racing, and in that final run, it's Steven Maggio who was able to survive for his third career 4-wide win and third of the season. He's impressed a lot. We'll turn to Paul's setup shot, Victory Lane, where we are joined by Steven Maggio once more. Steven, it hasn't been a while. I'm not sure if you missed us at all, but what a race from Charlotte this was for you. You know, we talked to you a couple weeks ago and you said you only care about the wins when you can put yourself in that right position. You did so today under strategy, and now you've got a third win on the year. How does that feel?
Mixed emotions. I'm definitely happy to get the win. I'm not at all proud about the way that I got the win, but just made a mistake and got into Colin there. I feel pretty bad about that. I'm happy that he didn't wreck. But I at least I was able to have a really fun and clean battle with Ethan and Hawken there, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, I'm really happy to win, but just not happy about the way that I did it.
It looked like a mirror image of Chicagoland. You, Hawken, and Moreno 1, 2, 3 at one point in this race, and you know, obviously you're talking about the Forrester incident there. But as you got by and you had Moreno right behind you, it was a BBR 1-2. What goes through your mind when you take a lead late? You already have the position, and now you're trying to hold off stellar talent all across the board as they're trying to catch up.
Yeah, once I got by Colin, I was kind of just testing the waters of both where he was going to go and how much of a run I could really get on him. And I was figuring that I was getting a better run on the front stretch, so I was thinking I was going to try to get him on the inside in 1 and 2, and that worked, and I was able to stay on his quarter panel. And then, yeah, once I got clear, I kind of thought that I had a really good chance to hold him off, just trying to give him dirty air and running my line. I felt like I had a really, really fast short run car. I don't think anyone was faster than me on the short run tonight, but on the long run, Ethan would catch back up to me. So being that it was a short run, I was pretty confident that I was going to be able to hold him off there if I just hit my marks. Just, like you said, just like Chicagoland, just make sure I hit my marks, don't hit the apron, don't overdrive the corner, just make sure I'm just sitting right on that white line. And yeah, I was able to do that, so I'm really happy about that part of it.
In the last several weeks, I mean, talk about an emotional roller coaster at best and probably a huge swing at most, with how Chicagoland went at the highs of high with the win, and then New Hampshire comes around, you put yourself in a place to lead the race from strategy, and then you overcorrect into the outside wall, and that's your race done, 100 laps in the going. As you were coming off of New Hampshire, what do you do to try to keep in mind to stay in the game here at Charlotte and keep that resiliency up?
Yeah, I was super embarrassed after New Hampshire. Like you said, I was really proud of my strategy to put me in the position that I was in. I had a little bit of damage, and I just really couldn't run the outside, so it stunk that that one car stayed out, and I was on the outside and just overcorrected, like you said. So I was really embarrassed there, but that didn't really affect me coming into this week. New track, new race, new week. But I just put that in the past. You know, that nothing about that's going to affect tonight, and I knew that I had a good chance to win tonight because Charlotte's very similar to Chicagoland in terms of they're both, I think, the two tightest mile and a half. So that didn't really affect me too much. I was able to put it behind me and just come in here with a good amount of confidence that I was going to run very well.
So with this third win on the season, you match Brandon Hawk, and it feels like you guys are going band for band right now. The last 4 races have been won by you or him and no one else on the racetrack. So it's been exciting over the season, and this win probably as big as ever in the way that you were able to hold off the competition behind like you did at Chicagoland. Steven, before we let you bounce and celebrate this win from Charlotte, is there anyone in particular you want to give the shout out to or thank for tonight's race?
Yeah, I'll shout out my team, KBueno Racing. That's Ethan, Jaden, Steven, Mikey Neal was with us tonight. Shout out to Hawken for racing us clean. Apology to Forrester for bumping him. Big thank you to Liam Brotherton. He made this paint scheme for me. It's my favorite paint scheme on the game. I love it so much. That's about it. Yeah. Thank you guys for the broadcast. Always super happy to come back and watch the broadcast. Best broadcast on iRacing. Look forward to watching it back.
Well, that truly means a lot to us, Steven. And on behalf of all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on your 3rd victory of the 2024-25 season. We'll see you at Atlanta Motor Speedway in 2 weeks' time if you can try to get win number 4. But until then, have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the little break we have next week.
Thank you. You too, guys. Have a good one.
That's Steven Maggio, 3-time winner now in the 4-Wide Racing Series. He's impressed a ton. You can imagine, already locked into the playoffs by a big margin. He's still searching for more. And off of NOLA Motorsports Park in real life with the Radical SR1s, Francisco, Brandon joins back the sim, races 4-wide tonight. He's got 2nd place here with him.
Once again here with Brandon Hawk. And Brandon, you're making a good habit of getting interviewed by some of us here in the booth. You got a 1.3 or 1.4 average finish now with this 2nd place. You've only finished 1st or 2nd, so you're clearly doing something right. Another 2nd place run for you. You look fast all night. Just kind of give us a perspective of your race throughout the evening.
Yeah, man, that was a wild race. We lots of passing, especially early on. You could go low, you could go high. It was pretty much just avoiding the dirty air. So yeah, man, the very, very start of the race, I was just trying to work my way up the field. I didn't get my 2nd quali lap in on time, but I was able to get up to the front there, and had a I don't know how long the battle with Lawson was there towards the start, but he he put on a really good battle there towards the beginning, and then yeah, but just I think yeah, once sorry. So once once I pitted, I got kind of lucky and unlucky there with the timing of the caution. I guess lucky in the sense I didn't go lap down, but unlucky in the sense that I lost some track position. But yeah, I think I had to start like ninth there on that last restart before the long run, and yeah, I worked my way up, but I think I burned my front tires off there, and Ethan and Steven did a really good job there at saving, and they were good there at the towards the latter half of the run. I just fell off. I couldn't keep up, but got another chance there with that last yellow, and man, it was a really great fight there. I think Steven was a little bit better on the short run than Ethan, so I was trying to stick with Ethan, just try to get them keep them side by side, and then eventually, like I was hoping I could like maybe get it like 2-for-1 at some point, but yeah, there was one time I went with Ethan or Steven, and I got him the lead, and I couldn't get there in time. It was going to be super tough with the sun going down. Track was getting a lot grippier, and it was getting a lot harder to pass out there. And Steven was holding it down just like he did at Chicagoland. He did a great job, and so yeah, it came close, but no, not quite a cigar, but it was a heck of a race, and just had a ton of fun tonight. It didn't even feel like 134 laps.
Yeah, these mile and a half races, they go by rather quick, and yet another classic battle there with the 51 of Steven Maggio. And we saw in that one long run before the caution there, Brandon, that you kind of lost a little bit of pace on the long run. Was it the right front that was giving you most trouble, or was just overall lack of grip?
It was probably the right front. Yeah, the first run I felt like I did a really good job at managing it, but the second one I should have dialed it back a little bit because I was just trying to get ahead of Steven early on in the run because I knew it probably wouldn't happen later in the run. And you know what, I could have maybe backed off, tried to save more than him, but yeah, it just I was trying too hard to pass him. He was being really hard to pass. So yeah, I mean he did a great job, and yeah, just overdrove it there a little bit.
Well, it was still a great effort from you to come home in P2 and keep up that top 2 finishing streak you got going on in the series now this season. You've moved up into the top 10 in points, which means you keep this up and those start numbers won't matter because you'll end up in the playoffs no matter what. So just while you have this opportunity, give the shout out to everybody that helps make this happen for you in the 98 team.
Of course, yeah, man. Great to be in the top 10 in points. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully racing for the championship, and always great racing with these guys. We put on another typical 4-wide race here. I know it's been a little bit iffy there a couple of weeks, but now we're back to normal with amazing racing. And man, it was just, yeah. Thanks to everybody for the fantastic battles tonight, and of course go compete in the GR86 and MX5 time trials for racing Prodigy to get your chance to compete in real race cars. We just had our first race at NOLA there this weekend. We learned a lot. There was figured out the car a bit. So yeah, hopefully by Sebring be up there towards the top of the standings, hopefully. But man, I had so much fun there on the weekend, and so go check that out. And yeah, Sucker Punch, go eat Sucker Punch, drink Sucker Punch if you like pickles. And man, yeah, see you all next week.
And maybe you want to text those details on Sebring. Certainly a reasonable distance away from Kenneth and I. We might be able to go there and show our support for you.
Sure will. Yeah, I'll get you guys the details, and yeah, hopefully see you guys down there.
Well, we appreciate the time you take with us, Brandon. It's always fun to have you up here talking to you, and wish you luck on all those racing. Of course, I know you're a Canadian, but enjoy have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the 2 weeks that we have, and we'll hope to see you out next time out at the old Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Thanks to you guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I totally forgot. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, see you guys next week.
That's Brandon Hawken, who comes home in second. Next race of the season is at the Old Atlanta with the 2008 scan. That was Brandon Hawken's first start in his 4-wide career, where he finished in second place behind a BBR driver. Was Luke Canup back in Season 6. So it seems like things continue to trend the same way. We'll toss over to third place, and it is another Canadian that takes a podium spot. Keelan Belsha, it is the best finish for Curtis Kelly this season.
Yeah, Curtis Kelly tying his best finish of the season with Las Vegas with a podium, and he continues to stack these great races on top of each other, and it continues to help him throughout the season. Curtis, another podium finish tonight at Charlotte. What's it mean to you, and how'd you get up there? Take us through your race.
Very happy with it. Wasn't expecting it tonight. Got caught up in that first big one, unfortunately, but didn't get too much damage from that. A couple guys like Colin paid the price a bit bigger, I think. But luckily was able to get through that, just kind of bided my time throughout the race. I knew I wouldn't be as fast on the long run as most guys up front, but I knew if I just kept hugging that bottom line as much as I could, it would work out in the end, and luckily it did. Managed to avoid one of the pit cycle cautions by getting a lucky dog and not getting stuck a lap down there, which was a big win. But kind of frustrating to have the yellow come out right as you're coming up on faster tires, being one of the first guys to pit. And that was a big thing tonight. I tried to always be at the front of the pit cycle. Didn't want to get caught out behind here because that's just dead lap time, it feels like. End of the race. Wasn't expecting a short run at the end, but I'm glad we had it. I always perform better when we've got under 20 laps to go and fresh tires. That's my time to shine. And just kind of followed Brandon and waited for him to open the door a bit, and got lucky that we had a bit of a misshift, I think, with Ethan in the final corner, and he went down to third. Was able to squeeze through on the bottom and finish P3.
Yeah, I was going to mention a couple of those things because it seemed like every time we came down for the green flag stops, you were one making a short pit there, try to make it work. Didn't quite have the green flag racing opportunity to close in on it, unfortunately. But, I mean, lap one, you were turned around 360 and ended up on the podium steps. So a very solid run for you in that 71 team. And it puts you up to second in points. You now sit 1 point behind points leader Jaden Porter. So just a very consistent season. Haven't been able to quite crack into victory lane yet. But being up there second in points, you're just outside the points lead. How's this season gone for you, and how's it been?
Really enjoying this season. It's been a season to buckle down, and it's worked out. Haven't got caught up with a bad wreck yet. I'm sure it'll come, and I'll drop a little bit whenever it does come. But it's all about maximizing what you can when you have a clean race ahead of you, and just bringing home the points. It's a big thing for me, points racing. I know I'm not always out there competing for the win, like I've said, but if you can just get those consistent top 10 finishes, it really pays off.
And it has so far, as you sit 1 point behind Jaden Porter going into Atlanta with an opportunity to take that away from him. Well, Curtis, go ahead and thank everybody you want to thank for putting this run together with another podium finish.
As always, thanks for you guys for showing it tonight. We always appreciate the broadcast and look forward to watching them the next day. Shout out to the teammates, stonks and not stonks, but still kind of stonks. Shout out to Brandon for the P2 tonight. That was a big one. He didn't quite have the pace for the P1, but I think if we went a little longer there at the end, he would have got it. But great race, fun night. Thanks for the broadcast.
Yeah, Curtis, well, we thank you for joining us this evening. We hope you enjoy your 2 off weeks. You're Canadian as well, so I don't know if you celebrate Thanksgiving up there, but we hope you have a happy Thanksgiving regardless.
Appreciate it. You enjoy yours.
That's Curtis Kelly, driver of the 71, who closes out in P3. Another solid finish for Kelly as he watches Brandon Hawkins and Stephen Maggio right in front of him take away the top spots here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. And with this, Francisco, as you and Keelan have mentioned it, the points have shaken up quite a bit. Benson has lost a couple spots due to his crash earlier in the race. New points leader is Jaden Porter, who stole it after losing the points lead at New Hampshire last week. And Curtis Kelly, I mean, what the season he's put together so far, 1 point behind. I mean, we talk about playoffs and the win and in system, but if you're looking at overall point standings, it is remarkably close.
It is incredibly close, those point standings. We talked about the situation for Brandon Hawkins, what he needs to be able to make the postseason, and everything has been based around the amount of starts as far as the wins to get him in. But obviously, if he has enough points per Tyler Murray, he can qualify his way in, which he's on pace to do so. Brandon Hawkins done a great job. Curtis Kelly's moved his way up into second. He's had a really consistent season. He's not really had poor finishes to his name so far, and it shows with being just 1 point behind Jaden Porter. And Curtis Kelly actually now leads 4 wide this season in the most top 10s. He has 7 top 10s and 9 starts. So it just goes to show this consistency level for Curtis Kelly has definitely been up there. And you could look back at Kyle Benson, who didn't have the exact result he wanted, will end up being 15 behind Jaden Porter, loses down to third. They're all pretty far ahead of Eric Faber, who maintains the 4th spot. AJ Green. Maggio moves up into the 6th position, but he just found out through him he's not going to be at the Atlanta Motor Speedway event. He'll be in Italy, so a good vacation for him there, but we'll miss the next race. He'll probably be back in time for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Ethan Fonseca keeps his top 10 spot after coming up short on the win. I'm sure he desperately wanted to win that race, Kenneth, but still, for someone who's had a struggle start to the season, these good results are definitely going to help him out.
Yeah, Steven can go to Italy all he wants. He can miss the next couple weeks if he does, and he still won't lose a playoff spot. That's how good he's been so far in 2024. Keelan, your final thoughts on this stellar of a race from Charlotte? I think the 1.5 mile races are proving to be some of the best this year by far.
Yeah, I mean, in real life, too, these next gens, they just overperform so much on these intermediates, provide some great racing, and that is something that we saw this evening, whether it was Peel and Moreno up front battling, or Maggio or Moreno Hawken, Maggio Hawken. Everybody up there put on a stellar show tonight. It was a great one for all the viewers back home. And when 4 wide's at its best like this, we get some great racing like that. And going to the beat-up Atlanta surface in 2 weeks' time, I think we're going to see another good one.
It will be a lot of fun. And just to reiterate, like we did on the pre-race show, earlier tonight, we've got a lot of changes to the schedule for Season 7, and it starts with what we will encounter on December 18th. Indianapolis Motor Speedway will visit the Brickyard once more. That was a lot of fun last season, last time we were there, so we come back to that race. That track will replace what used to be Martinsville as the proposal on the Season 7 schedule. Then after that, in 2025, in the spring, we'll head back to Auto Club Speedway one last time before the rest of the playoffs continue. That'll be the first race of the first round in the 2025 4-wide playoffs. We'll be under the lights, though, in Fontana, California, so that will be a ton of fun as well. And as for the rest of the schedule, well, this is what we encounter. We've got a week off next week for Thanksgiving as we celebrate it here in the United States. We come back the week after, December 11th. Actually, in 2 weeks' time, we'll have a 2-week break. We'll be back December 11th at the old Atlanta Motor Speedway. Lucan Up was the winner last time we were there, and then that's when we find that Indianapolis race the week after on December 18th. Not as much racing overall that we'll have over the next several weeks because of the Thanksgiving and holiday break. Best news is, one of the OGs of the KBueno Racing Network, Charlie Beyer, will join us for the December 18th race at Indianapolis, and you may find Francisco Bacalhau on the racetrack as well. So lots of excitement. And Keelan. So we may have 2 start. Can we get JJ in there as well? Can we have 3
Oh, goodness.
KBRN members in there?
It's a good possibility. You know how JJ is. He always follows me to the racetrack somehow. So
always
I think
down
we'll be
for
there.
a show. Always down for a race. His last start came at Chicagoland Speedway, where he did pretty well for himself and talked about it with us after in the booth. Said it was a lot of fun to drive, and all things considered, with everything that went down, it was a lot of fun for him. Well, we want to wish you all that were watching on the KBueno Racing Network a wonderful Thanksgiving break if you do celebrate it. And the week after, we won't be racing for the next 2 weeks, but we will return on December 11th. That'll come to you live at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. That'll be right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. We're going to miss you guys as much as hopefully you'll miss us on the coverage for the series. And we'll be elated to bring back the action at Atlanta Motor Speedway on December 11th. So that'll do it for us from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. A big congratulations to Steven Maggio on his 3rd career 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series win. For Tyler Murray and everyone at the Admin Council at 4-wide Racing, for Charlie Beyer at the KBueno Racing Network, and for the wonderful crew that spent the night with me on the broadcast tonight, for my colleagues in the booth, Francisco Bacalhau and Keelan Belsha, I'm Kenneth Bueno, signing off from Concord, North Carolina. We'll see you in 3 weeks at the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. Until then, have a nice time off and have a happy Thanksgiving.